And good day, ladies and gents. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm going to do what I usually do and start us off with a bit of a traditional British tune. And this one is about Nelson's great victory at the Battle of the Nile in 1798.
On the 9th day of August in the year of 98, we'll sing the praise of Nelson and the bold British fleet. For the victory we have gained over the rebellious crew. And to the Mediterranean Sea, brave boys, will bid adieu. So come, you British stars, let your hands and hearts agree to protect the lives and liberties of the mother country. At 4 o'clock that evening we brought that fleet in sight, and like undaunted heroes we were eager for the fight. They were lying at an anchor near the Egyptian shore, superior to the British fleet, and to take us they made sure. So come, you British stars, let your hands and hearts agree to protect the lives and liberties of the mother country. Our noble captain, he was slain soon after we began. Brave Cuthbert in succession, he boldly took command. For full 4 hours that evening, we engaged them on the main. And early the next morning, we renewed the fight again. So come, you British stars, let your hands and hearts agree to protect the lives and liberties of the mother country. Full 50 seamen we had slain, which grieved our hearts full sore. 200 more were wounded, lay bleeding in their gore. But early the next morning, most glorious to see, our British ships of war, brave boys, were crowned with victory. So come, you British stars, let your hands and hearts agree to protect the lives and liberties of the mother country. And now the fight is over, and we have gained the day. 9 sails we took, and 4 we burnt, the rest they ran away. But when we come home to England, so loudly we will sing, success to our Majesty, boys, and long live George the King. So come, you British stars, let your hands and hearts agree to protect the lives and liberties of the mother country. So come, you British stars, let your hands and hearts agree to protect the lives and liberties of the mother country.
And there you go. That was the Battle of the Nile, which is a traditional Royal Navy song commemorating Nelson and the Royal Navy's great victory in 1798 at the Battle of the Nile. That victory actually marooned Napoleon's army in Egypt. Napoleon promptly abandoned his army and returned to France. And eventually a British army was landed there that defeated the surviving French land forces. Welcome Alaman and welcome Sojo, my first 2 guests for the night. How are you going, gents?
All right.
Yeah, good mate. How you doing?
pretty good. I've been pretty busy this week. I've been going out and doing really sort of tedious stuff. Well, not really tedious, but like buying plants for the garden, and I got myself a decent chair to sit in front of this damn computer. So I've been doing stuff like that. And hello, Bruce. How you going?
Hello, mate. You all right? Yeah.
I've sent Grief an invite via email, but if you want to send him one as well, feel free.
I think he's had like 5 cans of Stella already, so I don't.
I don't mind, mate. I'm happy for this to be a kind of slightly more structured pub talk, really.
Yeah. I will. I'll forward it to him, but
No worries.
He's probably crashed out and fallen asleep or something.
No, he's in the chat.
Is he?
Yeah. He's in the chat.
Oh, fuck. Well, I don't know.
So, Adam, anything you want to particularly bring up to start with?
Yeah, Shamima Begum ain't being let back in.
Who?
Shamima Begum.
Oh, yeah, but didn't they say no? The last I read, they turned her down, didn't they?
Yeah, they're not letting her back in now.
Yeah, well, that's good. That was good. I saw that, but I mean, I tend to think, that these tiny little good things we get are so outweighed by so many of the bad things that we get.
Well, I'm kind of left wondering why they have turned her down.
Well, I think it would have been extremely unpopular for them to have accepted her, don't you?
Do they care about popularity?
I don't know. I mean, but there's not much cost to not allowing her back in, is there? I mean, it's difficult even for the left. It's very difficult for the left to make a case for her. I mean, she's so obviously a bloody terrorist,
Yeah, they're trying it though. They're saying she was groomed and stuff like that.
Yep. Well, they'll try that, but I don't believe it. Not for a second.
Maybe the Chinese said no.
Yeah, it's possible, isn't it? It's possible. What about you, Sojo? You got anything in particular you wanted to bring up?
Not really. I've not really been sort of tuned in to what's going on, to be honest.
No, I haven't this week, to be honest. The only thing I noticed this week was dear old the idiot in America bombing Syria as soon as he gets into power.
Oh, Jim.
Yeah. I did like all the memes that people were producing, with like Predator drones with Black Lives Matter on the side and stuff. I thought that was quite funny.
yeah, I've seen that. I like those. I like those memes. They're good. But somebody did mention on Twitter, I think a Gammon Easter worshipper, who I quite like him. He always posts good stuff. But he either posted himself or he retweeted somebody who basically said that Biden is just doing what Trump actually did. But the difference is that apparently Trump has done the same amount of drone strikes as Obama did, who did quite a lot. But the publication of the casualties was just changed. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he tweeted. So
Trump only, as far as I know, Trump only did one sort of bombing attack, and that was basically the one that killed the Iranian general bloke, wasn't it?
No, there was another one as well before, quite early in his term.
Oh, actually, there was
Syria with the airport, the runway.
Yeah, apparently he didn't hit very much when he did that, which apparently was partly done on purpose.
Yeah,
because like the neocons around Trump said, "Oh no, we've got to do a bombing raid." So he did one, but it was kind of organised, so it didn't actually kill very many people. So there was that. Honestly, that was one of the few things I noticed this week, to be honest with you. Apart, of course, from Boris Johnson publishing this route out of lockdown, which I reckon will come to naught by the time June finally rolls around. I think they'll make excuses by then, but I mean, time will tell.
Why?
Because I don't believe anything Boris Johnson says, basically. I know I have seen no evidence that anyone actually wants to stop these lockdowns. Certainly not.
I don't think that's true.
I'm quite hopeful about it, actually.
I hope you guys are right. But I haven't seen much evidence that that's going to be the case yet.
Yeah, I don't see how they. I mean, they ended the lockdown last summer, so I mean, maybe this is the rhythm we're getting into now. Lockdown in winter, open the doors in summer, but with some restrictions or many restrictions. Maybe it's just they want to like grind us down like wave after wave.
Well, it's because it's certainly going to make it easier for future governments of whatever political party to like lock people in their homes anytime they feel like it, pretty much now.
Yeah.
Yes,
and they've kind of
why?
proven to themselves that no one will object either. Well, I'm hearing a lot of talk about people doing it for climate change in the future.
Oh God,
I've not heard that.
Yeah, what are you saying?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people saying that one of the only ways they're going to be able to do this, like drastic reduction in emissions, is by actually locking people in their houses and closing down businesses and stopping people driving, etc. So there's a lot of talk that might be the next thing that we get.
You all right, Sojo?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. But why? Why'd you ask?
I don't know. You sound really. I don't know. You sound unhappy. That's all.
Unhappy, mate. I've had a fantastic day. I've been out in the sun. I've been hiking.
You're just tired.
I am very tired. Actually, I'm knackered. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's all right then. Good.
Yeah, I'm knackered. I've been up all night. I haven't been to sleep since yesterday. So, and for me, it's Sunday morning for me. So But
I went out and got some sunshine as well, so that was good. That was nice. Job done.
I never have any problem getting sunshine at this time of the year. It's the summer here, so
yeah,
it's not too difficult.
It's all upside down backwards for you, isn't it?
Yeah, man. I like I said, I've been buying plants for my garden and stuff like that. I spent like $150 and I got a whole 8 plants for that plus a few seeds.
Well, cool. I'm reading Trainspotting right now.
Trainspotting the book?
Yeah, I'm right in the middle of the scene where they start the bar fight. You know where Begbie throws the pint glass?
Yeah.
And it starts. Yeah, right in the middle of that. So that is quite strange. Good book though.
It's in Scottish dialect, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, I read it years ago. Yeah.
Oh really? Oh jeez, yeah.
I tell you what, Bruce, for years of my life, I don't do it anymore, but for many, many years of my life, I read a minimum of 6 books a week.
6?
6 at least, and quite often 8.
A week?
And they were mostly non-fiction. That's all I did was read. I used to read heaps all the time. If I wasn't doing something else, I was reading.
6?
How can you read?
That's quite an
do you speed read?
figure, Duke, isn't it?
Sorry, mate?
Probably closer to... I'm just saying 6. That's quite a, it seems like a big number.
No, actually, it was often 8, mate. Honestly, I'm not lying. I used to read 6.
Much closer to 320,000 if you get into revisionism.
Yeah, probably.
How do you read 6 books a week? How do you do that?
Because I never used to watch TV very much. Like I've always been a movie fan. I like films, but I only like some films. I don't like any film. And I never have been a big TV fan. And the only sport I used to watch was cricket and rugby union, and generally only internationals. So, and I used to watch a bit of boxing when I was much younger. And like even when I was in the army, I always had 2 or 3 paperbacks in my pack.
But I mean, are you like a fast reader though? Do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty fast. Yeah, I am fairly fast. Yeah, fairly fast. Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem. I'm quite slow, I think, reading.
Oh, people vary,
It depends what I'm reading. If I'm reading something deep and philosophical, then I just got to read it really slowly, otherwise I don't get it.
Yeah, no, that's true. If I'm reading something complicated, it's obviously a bit of a slower read. But it depends whether I like it or not. Like if it's history, for example, and it's not left-wing history, because left-wing history I tend to just chuck away because it's crap. But if it's good history, then that stuff is just like really fun for me to read, and I read it really quickly, and I basically know most of the dates and shit already anyway. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I struggle to get one a week. It's more like one. It's more like one every 2 weeks.
yeah, well, it depends what you're doing. It also depends what you're doing. I mean, you do shift work, don't you? So I mean, that makes things more difficult, I think.
Yeah.
That was the biggest trouble I found was when I worked shift work. I was tired all the time. As soon as I tried to sit down with a book, I was really struggling to keep my eyes open.
Yeah, shift work. Shit, I've done like night work occasionally, and I've done shift work occasionally, but I hate it. It's not fun.
Yeah, but also Duke, you know, I think I could probably read a book a day, but I wouldn't remember anything in it. That's the problem.
I've got a pretty
having
good memory.
Actually understanding and sort of comprehending everything that's in a book. I don't think you can I don't think you can run through a book in a day and really sort of internalize what's being said, what the message is. That's just my view, but
it depends what it is. So I bet you can probably remember people's names, but they've only told you their name once. I will have neighbours tell me their name 5 times, and I still won't know their name a year later. I have a vile memory for names. I almost never forget a face. Like if I've seen someone once, I'll remember them years ago. Like years
hang on
later.
a minute. Also, I'm just thinking about the kinds of books that you might read. So I imagine that a lot of it, or most of it, is basically British history.
History, military history, naval history, and I also have read a lot of stuff about birds and animals and all that kind of stuff because I'm actually very into natural history as well.
Right. So essentially, everything that you read kind of overlaps with everything that you've read before. So your knowledge is constantly building when you read books on the same subject.
Yeah, it is.
Whereas I think for someone like me and Brutus, when we read something that's unrelated to other things that we've read. What do you think about that, Brutus?
Yeah, I jump around a lot.
Yeah, I jump around a lot too. And I think that's why I find it hard to read through books quickly because I think if if it's something about Napoleon and you're a fanatic about Napoleon, then you can probably, you're reading it and you're like, no, that's bullshit. Oh, that's new. And but if it's fresh territory, it's fresh content, then I think it's quite hard.
Yeah.
I saw a thing once that I've actually been trying, and it really worked quite well for me. And it was this Jewish guy from New York. He was a speed reader, and he was describing how you could speed read but retain a lot of it. And he was describing how you would essentially I forget what people call it now. You'd essentially like imagine, you'd like set the scene in your mind, as it were, as you're reading.
Oh, with rooms in your house and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and you kind of think of what you've read more in senses, like what you might see or what you might smell and stuff like that. So, and even if admittedly, there's a lot of stuff you can't do that for. But even if you're reading something like a history book, you can almost imagine it like you're watching the History Channel and they've got the top-down map with all the stuff going on. You can kind of visualize it in a bunch of different ways.
I imagine most of you guys would have read what's his name, Peter Hitchens' book about World War II.
What, the Phony Victory? Yeah,
the Phony Victory.
We did a stream on that.
Yeah, well, I read that in about 3.5, 4 hours, something like that.
Yeah, it's not particularly long book.
How did you read that in 4 hours?
Because I knew most of it already anyway. But I mean, I did actually read it all, but there was not really anything in it that I didn't already know, if you see what I mean. I mean, it's a good book. It's a good book because it emphasizes a lot of other stuff.
I've got to be honest. I think I read about 30 pages an hour. That's how slow I am.
Yeah, I probably do a bit more than that, but I mean, I know Sojo. Sorry, not Sojo. Adam, you might have started reading that Splendid Isolation book. Yeah. If anyone on the stream wants that, by the way, let me know afterwards, and I'll tell you how to get it.
I've already got it actually.
But that Splendid
Isolation on your recommendation.
Yeah, well, I read that in about a bit over a day, but it wasn't really. It was just like bits of a day.
Hang on a minute. Is this the book of the stream? that has to be read.
Oh yeah, the one I said that people should read because it's looking at British foreign policy, particularly in relation to Europe between 1874 and 1914, by John Chalmley, written in, I can't remember if it was 1999 or 2009. It was one of the two.
Oh, I got it. Splendid Isolation, Britain, the Balance of Power.
That's the one.
And the Origins of the First World War.
Yeah, and I read that in a bit over a day, but it wasn't really because I was doing other shit in between it,
That's 536 pages, and you read that in just over a day. Jesus.
Yeah, about a day and a half, maybe. But it wasn't really because I wasn't. I was doing other crap, It wasn't like I had to go shopping and doing things around that.
Oh God, I wish I could read that fast.
But like Adam was saying, it's like there is stuff in that book that I didn't know, particularly in the third section about that idiot Gray, the Liberal politician. I knew most of the architecture around it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, but Duke, when you're reading that book, when you find something that you previously didn't have any knowledge of, would you slow down and then spend more time on that particular section? So you can so you can speed read things because you basically know everything that the book has. So I think that's why you can go through it really quickly. Yeah, probably. Barn Door, no, it wasn't an audio book. I find it difficult to listen to audiobooks unless I'm driving. Yeah, and me too. I don't do much driving these days, so
Low IQ question about reading.
Can you turn your volume up, Grief? I can't hear you.
Yeah, you need to be a little bit louder, man.
No, I turned it down on purpose because I always come across too loud. What's that like?
That's perfect, mate.
That's good. Yeah.
Any good? 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. A bit more, bit less, bit more.
Sound like you're in the next.
Bit more, bit less.
I'd say
a little bit less. A little bit more.
That's good.
I think that's fine, mate.
All right. Okay.
All right. Go on. You're right.
Well, I've forgotten the question now, so there you go.
You were asking about reading, mate.
Yeah, no. What I'd like to ask, as a sort of non-reader, I can obviously understand the severe benefits to reading a load, but like personally, what is it about reading? Like, why do you do it? What do you get from it? Why would you recommend it? That sort of thing. Yeah, because I don't read anything.
Well, I'll tell you why. But my dad told me when I was a very small boy, and I'm 55 these days, so this was many, many, many moons ago. And my dad actually taught me to read. Like my dad went to a parent teachings evening when I was about 7. It was probably the only one he ever went to. And my junior school teacher said, no, Ed was never going to be a good reader. Sure, I just doxed myself from my name, but anyway. And my dad said, well, that's no good. So he went and bought one of these Lady Bird, Janet and John books that you could get back then. And every night he used to sit me on his lap and teach me how to read. And I used to dread it because, like, my old man was not a politically correct teacher, He didn't used to hit me, but he was pretty nasty if I got things wrong. But within about 6 months, I was reading quite well, purely down to my old man. And my dad said to me, he said, look, he said, mate, anything you want to learn in the world, anything is in a book. And it's true, it is. Yeah. So like I got into natural history. I got in because I've always been a bit of a twitcher, a bit of a bird watcher, both of the female and the feathered variety in the day. I was hugely into military history. Like I was reading books like Battles of the Crimean War by W. Pemberton Baring when I was about 7 or 8. And histories of the Roman Empire and shit like that, and that's how I got into reading. And you can learn nearly anything there is in the world. And the trick is, if you want to come to a balanced conclusion about something, particularly if it's something historical, the only way you can do it is by reading quite a few sources. Yeah, it's no good reading 1 or 2 books because most authors have got like an axe to grind or at least a position they're trying to support. The only way you can do it is by reading half a dozen at least, and better still, a dozen or 2 dozen, because then you get the whole cross section of it, and you can come to some conclusions if you use a bit of common sense and the knowledge that you built up yourself, if that makes any sense.
How many books do you read a year, Duke?
Not these days, not so many, but in the old days, I probably hundreds.
Jesus Christ. Oh, I just can't imagine. Oh, God.
I used to go to the library, and public libraries are a great thing. They're one of the great things of Anglo and Western societies. And I would go to a public library and I would get about 12 books out per week.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And don't get me wrong, some of those would be like reference books or books with loads of bloody photographs of animals or tanks or something, or ships. So you wouldn't necessarily read all the text of that sort of a book. But at least 8 or 9 of them would be like reading books. And they were mostly non-fiction, to be quite honest. I've probably read 3 times as many non-fiction books as fiction books.
Wow, that makes me really unhappy. I just have to read more.
Okay, well then, Brutus, you answer it. I mean, because why does it make you unhappy? What do you get out of the whole reading thing?
Well, it makes me
sorry,
unhappy because I've got a massive reading list to get through, and I find it quite difficult to get through it. And I'm quite a slow reader, and I find it quite hard work. And there's Duke saying he reads like 12 books a week.
Like, yeah, like what's the kind of end game? Obviously, every book makes you more knowledgeable. I don't think I mean, at this stage in my life, I've got no hope. My vocabulary kind of is what it is. Do you know what I mean? And it wouldn't do me too many more favors to expand it any further because I can barely speak.
Grief, you're doing yourself. You're damning yourself there.
Oh no,
that's not true.
I'm famous for
your vocabulary is perfectly good.
Duke, yeah, that was my point entirely. I'm just saying it's kind of like adult male. It is what it is. You're doing all right. Not too bad. But I'm just saying that the idea of reading sort of fascinates me, but nothing in life seems to motivate me to actually pick one up because it's sort of like I don't know. I mean, I suppose plebs like me, I'll tune into Brutus's channel on a Saturday, and Brutus tells me about this book, rather than me spending 8 hours. Do you see what I mean? I think there are sort of different categories in a way of sort of like people who lust after reading and people who just want a quick rundown, a little synopsis in a YouTube video,
Depends what you're reading as well. I mean, some books are a real slog to get through, like flipping Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan. Jesus Christ, oh God, that was difficult. But
that's of a lot of philosophy, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, but that Kai-Fu Lee, AI Superpowers, that was great fun. That was like, wow, this is really interesting. Really easy, just well written and easy to digest and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I guess you just start with something that's easy and interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it still doesn't really.
Adam,
sorry.
What do you think about that? Why do you read books, mate?
Yeah, why? Like, why do we do it? That's the question, isn't it?
I quite like the medium. Like, I mean, you can literally just take a book anywhere. Doctor's waiting room, all sorts. But also like it's. I'm not going to say it's got a low barrier to entry because it hasn't. Like, it can be quite hard to get something published and get it out there to the masses. But the medium allows for a lot more than something like TV or movies or something like that. Like you can get away with more for start because it's just a like a solo effort. So you can really sort of stretch out your ideas without interference.
I mean, maybe I'm just thinking out loud, but maybe like, especially with fiction, any words, because there's no visual to accompany it. I guess maybe the magic is that it stimulates the imagination, whereas being plonked in front of the telly's doing 99% of the work for you. It's showing you the image, it's giving you an emotional soundtrack, and there's the script. You can even turn on bloody subtitles, can't you? Do you know what I mean? So it's all there. You can just turn into a vegetable. Whereas with a book, perhaps, I imagine, because I don't really read. In fact, I remember reading Goosebumps as a kid, by, is it Rick Stein, that horror series, Like, they used to force feed them these books at school because they were, like, short, they taught you to read, they were cool, But yeah, I guess the whole thing is it makes synapses in your brain fire that don't necessarily do that when you're watching television or the cinema.
I think you definitely get more of a feel for the character. Like me and Ataman did Casino Royale, which is James Bond, and it's like you've I don't know. It's different to watching a movie. You just get a deeper feel of who the character is and what he wants and what his motivations are, and so on and so forth.
Because you're making a certain amount of him.
Grief makes a good point. Grief's making a good point though about your imagination does a better job than any film or TV director could ever do.
Yeah,
it's probably more fun and more natural. There's kind of better chemicals. And I guess because you're not part of Hollywood, I know this is a bit of a naughty sort of tangent, but it's impossible for you to like be subverting yourself. So there's no propaganda within your imagination, is there? Or at least you hope not. So as you're reading a book, it's kind of you apply your I don't know, like if the protagonist is the protagonist, you're probably attributing a certain amount of yourself onto that. You'd like him to be this way or that way, especially in those stories where they're not like too descriptive. But I think the imagination is probably what makes reading
it's also
special.
It's also quite a solitary pursuit. I mean, obviously, you don't, it's not like you sit around and watch the telly with your mates, is it? You can only read a book by yourself, so it's like a quiet meditation by yourself. It's just you and the book. Do you know what I mean?
Sergio, what do you reckon about that stuff, mate? What do you think's the good things about reading?
Well, I suppose actually I've got quite an unpopular opinion on this, which is that it really does depend what you're reading, and it's been my experience that when it comes to reading things like philosophy or politics, I actually don't really get any benefit from it whatsoever, because generally I'll give you one example. So I tried to read Birth of Tragedy by Nietzsche, and I have to say that I found it to be a load of fucking waffle. It was it doesn't have any chapters, it's not structured, it's written admittedly in a sort of an elitist fashion and requires a tremendous amount of foreknowledge on the things that he's talking about. So, I tried to read through it, and eventually I just gave up because I thought to myself, actually, I'm reading content here that I actually don't understand. We're talking about things, we're talking about topics in terms of like the Greek chorus that I don't know anything about. So there's really no point in me reading it. So there is. It's
like that reading E. Michael Jones. It's like when he's talking about the Reformation, it's like he assumes you know what he's talking about. It's like
exactly, and that's not the author's fault. That's our fault for not knowing. But it would be nice if there was a guide that said, look, in order to read this book, you need to know X, Y, and Z. That would be really helpful. So I find that with a lot of philosophy is like that, which in many ways is why I wanted to read the Frederick Cobblestone volumes that we were talking about, Brutus. Because I thought that would help give you sort of like a high level overview of what was going on. And maybe it's better just to read the high level overviews than reading the actual content.
I slogged my way through the first one. It's pretty good, pretty interesting.
Okay,
but cool. You're probably right. Get like the overview. I mean, and that. By the way, Grief, to answer your question, I mean, for me, that's one of the main reasons. It's like you're putting all the pieces of a puzzle together, a massive puzzle of human history and human thought and philosophy and literature, and it's basically there's a list of books that you kind of have to read, and everybody kind of knows what those books are. And it's like you just kind of spend your life kind of slowly chewing through them, I suppose.
Yeah. So no, totally. Thanks for answering. That's kind of what I was after. Like, what would you get from it? And I think that's probably the best answer, isn't it? You're just trying to piece it all together. I just wonder, because obviously nobody's ever going to say, well, like reading's bad. But like, I just wonder if
I think it might. I think there's Grief. I actually think there's a possibility that getting too stuck in particular with philosophy, I think that there's a danger that you spend so much time reading about philosophy that you forget to live your own life.
Oh, totally. That's kind of what I was about to get to, Sergio.
You can get so wrapped up in the theory of life rather than actually living life yourself. And I think in many ways I've actually got quite an anti-philosophical view of this. In many ways, I don't want to read what other people have to say about life I want to experience it for myself and come to my own conclusions.
Totally, and I think that's absolutely sound advice and like a topic well worth exploring. You know, whether on this stream, but like just I think that should be always flagged up. It's like if you do something too much, you sort of like start to become it. And I was, I was wondering kind of about books because we've got all this history, sort of World War history, Greek mythology, all of these thinkers from the past. But if you yes, Brutus, if you map it all together, it gives you a kind of clear picture of what was. But like I don't know, I guess it's almost narrows the path for what could be because everything is based on something in a way, whereas I just think like a sort of nomad pleb like me who doesn't read at all, I'm literally making it up on the fly. There's no philosophy kind of backing my movements in a way, and I just wonder whether a man
you've got an untainted view of life.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, Sojo. Yeah.
Your interpretation is coloured by everything you've read going before that.
Right, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to push back on this anti-intellectualism a little bit here. But I mean, the reason that we are being conquered and destroyed is because we have forgotten our history as a people.
Totally agree with that.
I agree with that.
The very first thing you have to do is you have to know. You have to read your history. I work with a guy. I said to him, "Who's your favourite king?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "What about Alfred the Great?" He says, "I don't know who that is." Can you imagine not knowing who Alfred the Great is, for Christ's sake?
No,
I mean,
not as an Englishman or a Briton, no.
Exactly. And
how does that relate to the situation that we find ourselves in? Or are you going to get to that?
No, I think.
What do you hang on? What do you mean? How does that relate? What do you mean?
There's a healthy
question.
medium in between the two. But
if you don't know your history, you don't know who you are.
Yep,
I
totally agree with that.
And so your head, instead of having your feet on the ground, saying I am an Englishman and this is my history and this is where I have come from and this is who I am, instead of having that, you got a head full of Marvel superhero movies and garbage and consumerist crap.
Or left-wing shit saying the British Empire was bad and evil, which it certainly was not.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily the. I mean, you could know history and come to the conclusion that actually it's very evil. You could do.
No, not if you know British history. No, you couldn't. That's not true at all. I don't agree with that at all, Sojo.
I don't think so. Even like someone like Alan Moore, who is a bit of a lefty, even he has a nostalgia for England. You can't read English history without developing a love for your country.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
You can't even some of these lefties, they have a kind of nostalgia for Karl Marx just because he lived in London, or I don't know, Jeremy Bentham, or I don't know, God knows who else. The left-wing history of this country, which is part of our story. So there's a nostalgia there. There's a love.
I agree.
Go on.
Sorry. Look, I agree with Sojo to the extent that I think philosophy can be heavy going.
Yes, and sorry, I should point out that there obviously there's a distinction to be made between philosophy and history, and I wouldn't want to confuse those two things.
A lot of history is an adventure story, especially British history is an adventure story.
Yeah.
Really, it is. It's a wonderful adventure story and the best one you're ever going to read. Like real, absolute heroes and really brave men and just good people doing brilliant things.
Well, oh, sorry, go on. I'll jump in afterwards.
But so a lot of that is that. But yeah, philosophy can be very hard work, and I think German philosophers can be very, very hard work. I've got to say they can.
Yeah.
They can. I would not be able to read 8 books a week of German philosophy. In fact, I doubt I'd read 2 of German philosophy, and I'd skip a lot of it because it's so damn tedious.
Well, I bought one book of Martin Heidegger in a shop on the question concerning technology, and oh my God, even that, which was a small pamphlet, was hard work. I mean, the guy was essentially, I suppose this is where the problem with the German language, because it's more, they have sort of more words than we do. I think maybe I'm wrong there, but anyway,
Bigger words.
bigger, longer words and things like Dasein and being. And I just thought to myself, this is like I just really can't do this. I can't do it. And that was just one book concerning the question of technology. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to German philosophy, that really is. It really is quite a big ask to make.
But you can read don't get me wrong, I'm not being anti-German here, because you can read a book like Storm of Steel. You can read a book like Storm of Steel, which is about this dude's experiences in World War One, and it's great. It's a great book. But what annoys me is that you get loads of neo-Nazis or Nazi larpers saying that book is great. I can't remember the author's name now. It will come to me. Actually, and although the Nazis tried to turn him into a hero, he didn't like the Nazis, but there we go. So that's quite interesting.
Okay. So I just wanted to pick up on the question of, if you don't know your history, then you don't know who you are. But obviously history is just a historical account, or meant to be a historical, factual account of what's happened. But then really what gives you your interpretation of history is the philosophy that you sort of lay over the top of it, because that's what's going to give the sort of moral perspective that you have on those events, right? So as philosophy has developed and things have become more liberal and egalitarian and whatnot, then it shouldn't be any surprise that the interpretation of our history, which hasn't changed, the facts haven't changed, it's just been the interpretation of history has changed, and that's changed with the philosophy. So I think there's a danger with philosophy that you can essentially, Brutus, when you think about the Frederick Cobblestone books, that every philosopher is building upon the works of other philosophers, and I kind of get the impression that one day you can foreseeably get to a point where you've covered all of the basics hundreds of years ago, and what else is there left to philosophize about other than to become more extreme, more nuanced? And
I don't know, because I haven't read the whole series, but I mean things have changed. Like and I certainly got that from reading Cobblestone. But I mean the whole Greek philosophy thing, and the whole period of classical philosophy was a lot of metaphysics, which would just these days would just be considered to be magical wiffle waffle, to be perfectly
because
honest.
Of the advent of science and whatnot.
Yeah, well, we live under the metaphysics of science now. People have agreed that we live in a world of atoms and energy, and that's how the world is built. But back in those days, they hadn't reached that agreement. So you have all these different theories of how the universe is put together, and reading it all sounds a lot like a bunch of wiffle waffle now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Modern age is much more concerned with epistemology.
Yeah.
So, and I think in the 20th century, it's all about the theory of language. It's a very skeptical form of philosophy. So, yeah, I mean, basic questions are asked and repeated over the decades, but the focus changes. Definitely.
But really, guys, if you don't understand British history from, say, Alfred the Great onwards, then I don't understand how you can have a clear view of who the British people really are and the great people they really are because of that. And also the various errors that have come about from the second half of the 20th century, well, actually before that, from 1914 onwards, that have led us to where we are now.
Yeah. Hey, lads, I completely agree that, you probably should know your history to understand who you are type thing. But think about it this way, in terms of, the kind of, the good fight, as it were. Isn't that putting yet another kind of criteria on our already, severely lacking, quite behind, general populace, you know, the population. You know, we don't want to be feeding these people too many criterias and sort of like, check, you've got to check this box off, check that box off. Oh no, you're not doing that right. Yeah, you know, to kind of win this war, we don't want to kind of refine everything down to the perfect nationalist or the perfect Englishman. We've got to be able to cater for absolutely everybody, from like bumbling idiot to absolutely learned scholar, you know?
Yeah, but you need an intellectual elite to lead the way. That's what you need to do.
True, but
I
I'm
mean,
just
the way-
saying, don't
the way
make
I-
it too intellectual. Like cater for everyone at times, you know. I
That's
guess.
what
Yeah.
it's a filter down process. I mean, people that aren't interested in reading books won't read books, and they'll have more of a mass appeal. I mean, the way it's, I think the French said it, that when a fish rots, the head rots first, and that's what's happened to our society.
Yeah.
The intellectuals of our society have embraced Marxism, and their minds are full of garbage, and they're the academics, and they work in the universities, and every generation they get a fresh batch of young people, and they brainwash them, and then they go on to become the next middle class, and in that way the whole thing progresses onwards. So what needs to be done fundamentally is this rotten Marxist academic class needs to be swept away. This Marxist intelligentsia needs to be utterly decimated.
Well, I guess that's a downside of you know, kind of like intellectualism and the literature always being king. Because if the left are dominant, then it's their literature that's, you know, being cited to smite you down at every opportunity, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If the left are dominant, it's their literature that is like putting you in chains in a way, isn't it? You know, this isn't an argument for like, hey, stop reading, everybody, don't read anything ever again. It's just interesting that the literature, these great philosophers, they're loosely driving the way, because that's what's cited all the time, isn't it? You know, as principles. Yeah.
This strikes me as being the sort of double-edged sword of the elite, in the sense that you know, we can talk about, oh, we want a monarchy, or rather, specifically Brutus believes in, you know, going back to a king, but or having a sort of getting rid of democracy. But of course, it's all dependent on the caliber of the individual that takes up that role and takes away the phony choice of democracy, right? So you could have a king, but a king's no good if it's a left-wing king, right? Which is entirely
a left-wing king.
you could. I can imagine having.
Oh no, it's more likely. It was just like a left-wing king. I thought, Christ, I hope I never hear that phrase like for real. You know, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's entirely possible, and so yeah, everything really does focus with the elites, and you know, Brutus. We read, what was it, the Abolition of Britain, and I mean, Hitchens cites some of the books in there. I think it's called This Little Island of Ours, and it teaches the history of England and the UK, warts and all. And you would never
Was that a college, a textbook at school?
It's a textbook for basically primary school children that was essentially the foundation and cornerstone of the historical teachings that, you know, everybody got in the country, and it didn't seek to do down the country. It just portrayed everything that we had done, as Hitchens said, warts and all. So it's sort of, you know, a fair and balanced view of what we've done, and not in a way that sort of, you know, beats down on us. Yeah. And I would imagine that if you take a look at the textbooks that they give to kids now, it wouldn't resemble anything like that book would look like.
Yeah.
So, you know,
you don't know your history. If you don't know your history, then you don't love your country. It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's an expression of love, isn't it? I mean, look at these flipping nerdy idiots studying Star Wars or whatever and filling their head with that crap, or anime, you know, and it's got like they got a head full of flipping fantasy land. It's not even real. It's a complete phantasmagoria, and they'll be able to tell you this character did that character did that, and it's like, well, what about reality?
Yeah. But the thing is, with those characters, and there's many of them, all right, this is something I've been thinking about recently, just a little bit while I've been on the bog, you know. It's like a a lot of like I totally agree with everything you gents are saying, you know, and it is highbrow stuff, and it is for kind of like people of your caliber. I'm able to like understand it, but I don't think it sort of like suits me type thing. What I'm saying is, you've got to be able to like really get the message across to all different types of people. And I think the thing with the working class is you won't really tickle their fancy with tales of King Arthur and like our history and things like that. But one thing you will tickle them with, certainly, is they, myself included, don't like being fucked over at all. Excuse my language. You know, they just don't like being fucked over. Whether they understand who's fucking them over or not, it's got to stop. Do you see what I mean? That's like a sort of basic
You can't even.
urge principle. I'm just saying, from my experience with like podcasting and sort of being on the right, quote unquote right, for a few years. First it was like, oh no, I love my people and I do love my nation, and sort of like after a while that sort of dwindles. It's like, well, actually a lot of our people are a little bit difficult, and etc, etc. And actually the base urge, just as a red-blooded male, is I don't want to be fucked over by the NWO, the COVID narrative, by subversive media, or by my pals, or if I go for a night out in town at its very base level. So I think people have got, I think there's a way into talking, because let's face it, I'll ask you a question. What percentage of us read? And I don't mean us in this very niche, small nationalist group who are willing to podcast. I just mean our population. I think actually you're going to get through to more people.
Large numbers, mate. Grief, listen, I think you're guilty of a bit of humble bragging here, mate. You're not quite that, you're not like somebody who doesn't read and doesn't.
No, we call it self-depreciative humour in the UK. I'm quite good at it. You know?
All right. I've noticed. Yeah.
But anyway, don't focus on that. You know, the question is like I'm saying, the base urge of a young man is he doesn't want to be screwed over on a day-to-day basis.
Well, that's your base urge. It's not mine.
Well, I think it's a natural.
For some people, their base urge is they want to learn.
Okay, all right. Well, let's put it to the test. You go and tell Darren, okay, in his Man United shirt, all right, at the pub. Yeah. You go and tell him that somebody has okay. Hang on. What was it?
Get it together, mate. Darren in a pub. Yeah.
Yeah.
A.
You tell him here, Darren. Yeah. You want to read a lot more. It might solve a lot of your problems. Okay.
Yeah.
Or tell him B. Somebody's just stolen a $5 out of your wallet. All right. Which one's he going to go absolutely apeshit over, type thing? You know. If you tell him that A. No, of course not. It's the B, isn't it? You've got to interact with people's base prime urges. That like, oh, this immigration thing. It's not just like, oh, it's a bad scenario.
We do that every flipping week, Grief. We do that every. I mean, how many? Hey,
listen. I'm not talking about. Dude, I'm not talking about like, oh, this should be your script for the show. I'm just saying this whole like, oh, if you read more, like everything will be better. Like Darren ain't got can't eat. Darren doesn't give a fuck about any of that type thing, you know.
Grief. Look,
and Darren is your foot soldier in all of this. You know what I mean? You can't castigate him for not reading. What you've got to try and do is tell him how he's getting fucked over, and loosely tell him like why and who's doing it. Just rally around that very simple thing, you know.
Well, that could be your show. That could be the Grief show.
Hey, I'm not talking about shows. I'm just talking about in general. I'm not saying you need to do this. I'm just throwing it out as an idea. You know?
Grief, can I make a point here? Because I invite you on my show nearly every time I have one.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
Sometimes you come on and sometimes you don't. But I would say what you do with Darren in his Manchester United shirt, and I've done this, by the way, right, is you tell him about some of the great, fabulous fucking things the Manchester Regiment has done in its history, or HMS Manchester has done in its history. And you know what? I guarantee you that 9 times out of 10, Darren, who might or might not know anything about history, right, will be fascinated by that shit, and he would say, "How do you find that out, mate?"
Yeah, no, maybe you get a few percent. Listen,
No, it's more than a
Duke,
few. It's a lot.
yeah,
It's a lot.
I know you like your military history and that. Yeah. Hey, listen, dudes, and Brutus, I wasn't talking about what like Britnat podcasting needs to be doing. I was just thinking like because for me, I've sat here and listened to people, you guys talk about kind of reading the benefits of it and like it's piecing together a puzzle. But I just think because let's face it, and I'm sorry to be a bit of a black pill, I think actually like the general populace is exiting that phase. It's undeniable because we all watch YouTube now. We just read how many characters are allowed in a tweet now. Was it like is it 160 or something? Everything's like
exaggerating. I think you're exaggerating, mate. I do. I think that,
go on.
And one of the things I want to do is to get people to go and look at that shit, mate. Because if you don't, I agree with Bruce totally on this. I don't totally agree with Bruce on a lot of subjects, but on this, he's totally right. If you do not know who your ancestors were and where you came from, you do not know who you are.
I agree with that, but I'm saying that's the place that we are, and certainly will be in 20 years on a whole.
Well, we've got to fight back against that, which is what I hope this podcast, this particular stream, which is my stream, I hope that's fighting against that.
Totally, I fully support you, Duke. Yeah, no, fair play, mate. Hey, listen, I'm in no disagreement here, guys. I feel like I'm being backed into a corner here, but it's look, I'm in no disagreement whatsoever. I just, I guess the reason I brought it up is because I guess people I know don't sort of traditionally fit that box. So I'm just sort of wondering. I don't know what I'm wondering, but no, you crack on, lads. I am in agreement. I'm just throwing a spanner in the works.
You're never gonna.
The education system, Dr. Johnson's snuff box, the comment I put up on the screen here, the coal miner of the 1930s would have been more conversant with his own history than most history students today. And I think that's probably true because the education system then was actually better at actually teaching people real British history. And also there was Empire Day every year.
Yeah. Totally, yeah.
But even, I mean, take the idea of Empire Day, which is a great way of condensing all of the important things into a mythos that the average person can understand.
Yep.
And I suppose that we still do have that, and it's essentially World War II.
Yeah, that's the trouble.
For better or worse,
it's just that. Yeah.
It's for better or worse, it's just that. But that is essentially the kind of message. For worse, but that is essentially the kind of message that you need that is easily digestible for the public for them to have an understanding of who they are as a people, as a nation.
But it wasn't like that, Sojo. Even in the 1940s and the early 1950s, and in the 1930s, it wasn't like that. Every little English village and town had a big Empire Day parade where all the kids would get done up as Britannia. And they would have warships representing, like made up warships representing the Royal Navy, and they'd have guys in red coats as the army. And people had a real understanding of what the British Empire was. There'd be stuff about Australia and New Zealand and Canada and South Africa back then.
Yeah.
People had a much better understanding. And when they were actually in school, they were actually taught some history.
It's tragic, Duke, but we are at the stage where that is actually, I know, deeply unpopular opinion here, but like that is over.
I don't
actually it's got to the stage where it's actually being flipped on its head. Hey, listen, Duke, correct. You're doing a fine job of keeping it alive in niche circles. You know, I'm not really sort of like part of that thing, but I'm here. I appreciate it. I want to learn more about it, type thing. I respect its relevance, but the point is, like we say, if we're spanning this out, that is over, and it's actually got to the stage where the narrative has been flipped on its head, and the media are regularly at large bad mouthing it. You know, that's where it's at. You know.
Yeah, and I know that's true. Yeah, but that's like the biased brainwashing corporation and all those absolute CUNTs. You know?
Yeah, it's wrong, but it's informing millions, and that's the thing, isn't it? You know. Also, but I commend you for keeping it alive. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Also, have a very cynical view of this, but when we actually did have an empire, it was in the government's interest to promote it and for the public to be behind it because it was important. But what's the point from the government's point of view, or from culture's point of view? What's the point of promoting an empire that no longer exists? And that's a very cynical view, but I think it's a legitimate view because I think that's a truthful observation of power, which is that of course we were being taught about the empire because that was in a lot of people's interests in high positions of power and financiers and the military and whatnot. But we don't have that empire now. So there would be, from that cynical point of view, where's the benefit in promoting that?
Yeah, which is the sole reason. Just quickly, Duke. Just quickly, it's the sole reason I brought up man's primal urge: do not fuck me over. And I think that's how you speak to the working class. Rather than telling them to read more, you go down that line. That exactly what you're talking about. Maybe in better days we can sort of like talk about the empire and things like that. But like, I don't know. I think well, look, let's put it this way: as time moves on, as things get a little bit more drastic, a little bit more dicey, I think you can really resonate with man's basic urge to not be pissed about with. Do you know what I mean? Simple stuff.
Yeah.
No like big books, big brain takes. Just like, here, listen, something's being done to you, and we know who's doing it. You know, we know how it works. That sort of thing. You know.
All right, Grief. What I would say to that is two things. Firstly, this show has got slagged off because it goes on about the China virus lockdowns all the time, the China virus forced lockdowns all the time. I've been slagged off for that. I reckon that's one of those simple views and not being fucked over that you can probably get over to people. But like I say, I've been attacked for going on about that all the time. And the other thing I wanted to say is, Aaron, as someone who hasn't spoken very much, what do you think about this stuff?
Does it actually matter if you can't get everyone reading?
Well, the more you can get reading, the better. But apart from that, no, not really. So what's your take on this whole, like, does it matter if people understand the history and all that kind of shit?
Yeah, people do need it. It's important. Otherwise, the opposition wouldn't target it like they do. But
Absolutely, yeah.
But I mean, we can't just go around and tell people to read. That just it isn't going to work. I mean, it worked in the past because the culture was pervasive of its history, but that just isn't happening now.
I mean, I try and like use you can't use TV, to be honest, but there are films that were made mostly in the past. You can say to people, "Well, look, go and watch this," because it gives you a relatively accurate view of what was going on. So I try and do that.
Yeah, reading's only when I'm trying to encourage reading. Like I said in the beginning, it's about the intellectual class, or it's about at least cultivating a kind of upper class of people that are reasonably well read. You're not going to get the masses to read flipping Shakespeare and Plato and Julius Evola and all of that. No, it's about people of, well, that 110 IQ mark, 110 above, above average IQ. So what are we talking about? Like 20% of the population or whatever, the Pareto principle, something like that. You're not going to get everybody to study the classics.
Well, I mean, the only people that we need to be engaged with this literature is the people who have their hands on the levels of power. The elite. I've always said this, again, it's like, I'm not bashing the working class. I'm just saying that, I don't think that they've never been particularly important to any kind of revolution. It's always been the elite. So if you want to red pill anybody, you want to red pill the elites, not try and build up a working class resistance.
Yeah, I mean they're the foot soldiers. You need them, but
they're the foot soldiers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
you can't get anywhere near them though, can you? Anywhere near them, really. I mean, I remember the whole kind of like arrest Tony Blair movement. I think they got their hands on him twice, didn't they? But I mean, how do you red pill the elite? There's that thing with Michael Gove with like some pretty based books on his bookshelf. Do you know what I mean? But
I think he probably is quite red pilled. But I think the problem
I don't want to
is
talk about.
that
Sorry, go on, mate. Go on.
So, sorry, I really shouldn't have jumped in like that.
No, I jump in all the
think
time. It's only right you do the same, mate. Go on.
I think a lot of these guys are red pilled, but they kind of just get stuck in the machinery of government, and they may think that one day they're going to do something, but actually, I think a lot of these people are just shaped by the institutions that they live and work in.
Or do you think it's a case of Ed Dutton's whole rise of the midwit, where they're smart enough to understand everything, but also just smart enough to absolutely toe the line for a comfy life forever, without question, you know?
Well, I think look at the case of Enoch Powell, who arguably is the premier intellectual of the political class for what, 100 years, Duke? What do you reckon? I mean, he's got to be up there, right? An outstanding academic and intellectual figure, right?
Yep,
and in mainstream politics. And he put his head above the parapet, and the establishment blew his head off. And he was relegated to being part of the DUP or the UUP in Northern Ireland. That's all he could do.
Yeah, and even more, Sojo, even more important than that, he was replaced, or like when he was rejected, who the Conservatives, in inverted scare commas, took on board was Edward Heath, who was a total globo homo guy and almost certainly a pedophile.
Yes, there have been rumours about that. I think.
Well, I think they're a bit stronger than rumours, mate.
Well, of course, he's dead now, so you can't libel him, can you?
You can't.
Fair enough.
And listen, if he was alive
as well now, are you, Sojo?
No,
I don't think he is.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to be careful with my words and not accuse people of being paedophiles on YouTube.
Bear in mind, it's YouTube, guys. Everyone's getting banned.
Yeah, that's.
I know. But like, if my channel gets to a certain number of subscribers, it will get banned. It's just going to happen. It's like, don't worry about it. But yeah, Heath was certainly a pedophile, in my opinion.
What did he do again? Give us a rundown of Edward Heath, will you, Duke? Since you're the history guy.
All right. He took us into the common market, which was like the original sin of Edward Heath, and told us we would get cheap food, which is a complete lie because Britain got cheap food from the old Commonwealth, from New Zealand, Australia, and Canada, and also from little places in the Caribbean, etc. That we shat on heavily when we joined the EU, because the EU insisted we did. And he was into yachting, which is a great thing because I love sailing. But unfortunately, he was into taking little boys on his yachts and doing nasty things with them. So there we go.
Can I ask you a question?
Hang on. I'm going through this. It's interesting. He also did the decimalization of British coinage.
Yeah, he did that too. Yeah, he was just a total CUNT. Sorry, he just was. But I mean, like, the worst thing he did was take little boys on his yachts and do nasty things to them and not get prosecuted for it, sadly.
He never married or had children, did he?
No, he never did, no.
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
And when the Conservative Party, in inverted commas, as it must be, rejected Enoch Powell, who was the youngest brigadier general in the British Army in the Second World War, and who was teaching Greek in Australian universities, like when he was in his 20s, ancient Greek. A really brilliant man who had a brilliant understanding of history. And as you rightly say, Sojo, put his head above the parapet and had it shot off, even though the vast majority of the average British working class people supported him.
Yep.
And they did. Like, my dad was one of them. They all supported him, for he was the great guy who should be the leader of the Conservatives. The Conservatives went for a pedophile instead.
Yeah, I mean, what does that say about the elite? I mean, it says a lot, doesn't it, really?
Yes, it damn well does. Hello, by the way, it's one thing. I'm just trying to say something to someone in chat.
Yeah.
Hello to Royal Oak.
Oh, hello, mate.
Good evening.
Good evening. Who was the one that screwed over Zimbabwe? Was that Edward Heath?
Well, yeah, partly, but like everyone screwed over Zimbabwe from Harold Wilson through Edward Heath up to Margaret Thatcher, and also
Even Thatcher,
included, and also including the South African white government.
Are we saying Zimbabwe in here?
Rhodesia, mate. Rhodesia.
Sorry, my bad.
Rhodesia. Headed by Ian Smith, who was a World War II Spitfire pilot in the RAF.
Yep. A great man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he was epic.
Brilliant.
Yeah, 1979 that the Lancaster House Agreement was signed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was Thatcher. But they say it wasn't really her fault because it was kind of set up before she took power.
Yeah, but they also say, Bruce, that the agreement on Hong Kong was not Thatcher's law.
Right.
You know, and that was under her as well.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, she would have been the prime minister, and she selects the cabinet. And if you don't like it, then do something about it. But don't give us this bullshit that my hands are tied, because that's just, it's nonsense. So,
Thatcher had more balls than any of the men in her cabinet in 1982 during the Falklands War. Like the proudest day of my life, I've had the two proudest days of my life were when I was at Portsmouth, when bloody Hermes came back in after winning the Falklands War. And it was the whole of Portsmouth was a sea of Union Jacks, Union flags, and white ensigns.
Wow!
It was just like you wouldn't have been any other nation on that day. Yeah. And I was a 17-year-old waiting to go in the British Army.
I wasn't even born then.
Well, there you go. I'm an old guy.
Yeah, 82.
But it was so brilliant. And the other proudest day of my life was when I went to Dartmouth, HMS Britannia Royal Naval College, for my boys passing out parade from the Royal Navy, for the Royal Navy. And they were the two proudest days of my life. It's partly why I go on about the Royal Navy quite a lot, even though my family are mostly Army.
Yeah, it must have been awesome. The atmosphere must have been incredible, huh? Wow.
Oh man, you just couldn't believe it. It was, and I remember my dad, right? When the Argentinians first invaded the Falkland Islands, and there was only like about 130 Royal Marines on the whole fucking islands, and they invaded with like battalions of Marines and armored vehicles and helicopters and jets and all this shit. And the Royal Marines actually put up a damn good fight. And like killed quite a few of the bastards and knocked out some of their armored vehicles and all the rest of it. And then they were showing you on the BBC News all these people in the square in Buenos Aires who were all standing there with seas of Argentine blue and white flags, thousands and thousands of them, and they were all shouting, "Why kill one Englishman when you can kill 10?" And I was almost crying. I really was. Like, I was 17 years old. It was like, and I was waiting to go in the army. It was like, I couldn't believe this shit. And my dad, who was an old British soldier, he just turned around at me and he said, "Son, wait and see who's laughing at the end." And he was so fucking right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really say much more. I can't say much myself because I wasn't alive, and missed out on that.
Oh, it was great, man. It was fucking fabulous. It was like,
I mean, I've seen all the video footage.
Just Britain. It was Britain on their own. We did well. All right, the Americans helped us out a very small amount, but basically it was Britain sailing to the other side of the world, beating the shit out of someone who had invaded our own territory. And freeing all these British people who lived on these British islands, had always been British for like 150 years.
Yeah.
And fuck the enemy.
Okay. Based.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Sorry, guys. Alan, you haven't said much. Carry on. Mate, Adamant has got. Listen, let me say something, guys. Adamant has some of the best takes on these streams, but he doesn't say as much as he should.
Yeah, that's why I save all the good takes. I save them up. I don't know.
Pressure. Pressure's on, mate.
Brought up first about this Jemima Begum thing, right?
Can you get rid of? Can you get rid of that Dr. Johnson snuff box, please?
Why?
I don't know. It's
Don't you
annoying.
like him?
No, I don't.
I just think it's a true thing.
It's just the same comment. It's just floating there. I don't know. It's just starting to annoy me.
Pick another comment.
Yeah, I think you flash them up for like a minute max, like Bosch.
Yeah.
And then, let everyone absorb it, enjoy it, understand it, and then remove,
Yeah.
on to the next one, yeah.
It's stagnant. The moment has passed.
It's lingering, Duke. It's a lingering comment. We've got a lingering comment here.
What a shame.
Yeah, it's like a
What a
fart that
shame.
won't disappear.
Adamant, carry on.
Oh, fucking hell.
So anyway, with this Jemima Begum thing, why do people think the Supreme Court has let the Tories have their way? Is it maybe because they think that the Tories would use that against them and say, you've done something that's incredibly unpopular, you've only been around for X amount of years, you're a creation of Tony Blair, and you should be gotten rid of? In which case, I think that they're probably giving Boris Johnson more credit than he's due. But,
Well, that's a very interesting question, Ataman, but hang about, because I was looking not so much into it, just like a little glance, and basically everyone was celebrating, like, yes, kind of, this is amazing. Oh, how weird is it that, the Tories finally had a bit of backbone and actually did something for once. But I was reading all the headlines and looking at kind of like the talk radio sort of comments and things like that. And they were just saying that she's been denied the right to appeal in this country, meaning she will not be coming back for her court case. But that there was no mention, as far as I could see, that her court case cannot happen overseas. Like it's not like, oh, case closed. It's like she just can't come home to continue it, And it's a good thing we left the EU, because what is it? Is it the ECRG or whatever? But like the European human rights thingy. She can't appeal to them anymore because we've actually like left, so that's a benefit. But you tell me, does anyone know the definitive answer to this question? Is it case closed, or can she continue to fight this shit and eventually be brought back, within a year?
It's case closed because there is no higher court that she can appeal to that has any ability to force the British government to do anything.
What, the UN can't like fiddle with the Supreme Court?
No,
okay, all right.
No.
I don't think it is case closed.
Me neither, sister. I think she'll be back. I think she'll be back.
Sorry,
it's closed, mate. She ain't coming back.
I wanted to say that in my book, it's only a closed case when there's a final drone strike to get rid of the problem.
Oh,
that's my opinion, because we've done it before, and I don't see why we can't do it again.
Based.
I mean, Cameron did that.
I wouldn't disagree with that personally.
Cameron did a
in Minecraft. In Minecraft, of course.
No, not even in Minecraft. This was Cameron has already drone striked around citizens in.
Live stream.
Whoa! This is my channel, mate. So in Minecraft.
In Minecraft.
No, hang on. Nobody's listening to what I'm saying. David Cameron, as Prime Minister, launched drone strikes on British citizens in Syria before. There's precedent for it.
Yeah, this isn't even no, this isn't even
not in Minecraft.
This is literally a real thing.
This is historical fact.
Well, I'm not even surprised. Well, why would I be surprised?
I'm surprised that Cameron did that, if I'm being absolutely honest.
No, David Cameron was a shitbag.
Well, where is that plastic snake, by the way? He's never in the media, is he? That plastic snake. Dave the talking snake. I haven't seen him in years. Have you?
Duke, you're upset that David Cameron drone struck an Islamic UK citizen in Syria.
No. I'm upset that David Cameron was a shitbag, and I don't care who he drone striked. we probably shouldn't have been fighting those wars in the Middle East. That's my real view.
Okay.
Like all those wars are useless as far as I'm concerned. Like the 465 blokes who were killed in Afghanistan, the 159 guys who were killed in Iraq, the many thousands more wounded from the British forces in those wars were killed and wounded for absolutely no purpose whatsoever.
Jude,
None.
what's your take on like kind of war in the future? Because like it seems to me as a sort of a bit of a normal. Well, I'm just let me finish. What I'm saying is, it seems like a bit of a LARP these days. Like a few lads go in, few get, like problems happen, a few explosions. There's some pinpointed drone activity. Maybe like the majority of it is a trade war. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what I'd like to know. Like what's your opinion on like what you think war of the future will be, and here's my question actually. Do you think that the nuclear bomb almost killed war? It kind of cancelled war, and that's almost one of the reasons why they've encouraged so much immigration, because the nuke basically only allows for civic conflict nowadays. It can only allow for interracial, globalist, like... Okay, crack on, me old friend. Go on.
Nuclear weapons they can only do one thing,
which is kill everyone.
Yeah, kind of. Like if Russia wants to invade Britain, which it now couldn't do because its navy is shit at the moment, but if it did,
it couldn't do it anyway due to like just geopolitics. Like everyone's stagnant in terms of war. We're all in a loose cooperation. It's called globalism, isn't it? So nobody's fucking with anybody apart from like little stealth bits in the Middle East. Yeah,
I don't think that's true. But okay, if you want me to tell you what I think, I'll tell you. But if you want to keep telling me what you think, you can carry on doing that.
I was just refining my question, but I'm going to mute for a full 5 minutes. There you go.
Unbelievable hypocrisy.
Mate, I'm not above hypocrisy, but it's my stream, so I can be hypocritical.
Absolutely. I took that on the chin. Valid criticism.
Listen, guys. My real opinion of nuclear weapons is they don't affect much at all, because all they can do is stop your nation either being invaded by vastly bigger forces, or cancel each other out, because like your first strike will get a second strike on your cities. So let's say, for example, which I don't think will happen for a second, the Russians decided they were going to strike London. Might not be such a bad thing because London's a shithole, and Birmingham might not be such a bad thing because that's a shithole too. But we would, in return, destroy St. Petersburg and Moscow, and there is nothing much they can do to stop that.
No, but okay? I agree with that, Jude. But that wasn't the question. Because all of, I'll let you finish, but I'm just saying that's a complete and utter LARP scenario. We're not talking about what would never happen. We're talking about like realistically on this kind of like globo homo rock we live on type thing. Nobody's really attacking anybody. So if the elites do want war, the way you do that is kind of just make these continents interracial and hate each other. That's the. Do you see what I mean? That's how you can sort of conjure up a war. You know,
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying there at all. I do think they want to make us all beige people. Yes, I agree. The elites, I mean.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah. Please do, Brutus.
Go for it, mate.
Can I just say the comment has gone stale and we need a new comment or no
get
comment?
Get fucked. Okay. So, yeah. No, honestly, get fucked. But, yeah.
Press C in the chat if you want a new comment.
HMS Invincible was the best name of a warship ever. All right? So, there you go. But apart from that, I would say this. Look, the war we're going to get shortly, unless I'm really, really, really moronic, and I don't think I am, is a war between America.
Okay, I'm shut up. I'm sorry. Don't ban me.
I'm not going to ban you, mate. If I was going to do that, I would have done it long ago. I put up with all sorts of shit from you, man. But no, if we were going to get, the war we're going to get, unless I'm a moron, and I don't think I am, is a war between America, Britain, Australia, and Japan, perhaps aided by India and South Korea, and maybe Taiwan to some degree, against China. We're going to get that war in the next 10 years. And if we don't, I'll be absolutely amazed. But it will be mostly a naval and air war. Yeah, you might get some landing forces on these crappy little islands the Chinese have stuck in the South China Sea, but that's the war we're going to get. And that war will not be affected by nuclear weapons at all, because both sides, actually, that's not true. The Americans can fucking ruin the Chinese, and the Chinese can cause the Americans and maybe the Brits and the Japanese a fair number of casualties. But bayonets will be required, Barndor. You're not right. You're not wrong about it.
Okay.
You're not right about that.
Well, just another spanner in the works. You know, I know I'm doing some out there kind of thinking, Duke. You know, but the other thing, you know,
but you don't read anything. You don't read anything, mate.
I know, which is why my takes are so spicy. Do you see what I mean?
So your ideas, your ideas all come from watching TV, do they?
No, it comes from the here and now. I'm literally pulling this stuff out of my arse. You know what I mean? Which is
Yeah, I believe you, mate.
You don't.
I'm just saying,
mate. You don't read.
I'm saying that the concept of America, America can go to war. America might not very well be there in about 20 years, gents. It might not be there in about 10 minutes. Do you see what I mean? The way it's going. The idea that kind of this multi-ethnic thing is going to back, the American dream is gone. You can't speak about it in the same sort of way. The idea of,
Did you read that on poll? Did you read that on poll?
No, I freely am willing to admit I'm pulling this out. I'm plucking this out of my arse, gentlemen. All right.
Yeah,
this is all original content.
America's still going to be there in 10 years, and probably.
But what is America, Duke? You can't just tell people like go and die for Israel anymore. I don't think many people will be.
When have I ever done that? When have I?
I'm not saying you. I'm saying America. America. What is it? We'll be there soon.
It's just an idea.
Five Liver, let me just say to you, mate, I have an A-level in history, and I have an A-level in geography, and I have an A-level in zoology as well, but there we go. Don't worry, mate. But
you can't have A-levels, you must have had O-levels.
No, I have A-levels and O-levels. I did my O-levels at 14. I played truant from school for 2 years, Sergey. So I got sent to a further education college when I was 14.
I've got 4 GCSEs, the rest ungraded, and a distinction in BTEC level, which means absolutely nothing in mechanical engineering, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, mine mean nothing. I've got like 7 O levels and 3 A levels, but they mean nothing. And then I joined the British Army as a private, and I actually had better qualifications than most of my officers, but there we go. My choice.
Your body, your choice, Duke. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it was always that.
Yeah.
I never gave a shit about any of that. I always wanted to be a British soldier, you see, when I was a kid. And that's just what I wanted to do. So
it's very commendable.
No, it was actually one of the most foolish decisions of my entire life, but there we go. And I did A levels and O levels when they were actually quite hard, which they're not anymore. So there you go.
Yeah, education is difficult. I mean, I don't know what sort of subject you want to talk about next, but I guess it slightly harks back to what I was banging on about earlier, which is like it's absolutely not for everybody. My life, I'm almost sure would have turned out, let's just say different, but probably financially kind of like better if my old man took me out of school at 16 rather than let me go and you go and pretend to sort of do something meaningful. But let's face it, you go to college because that's where all the fannies going. You know, it's as simple as that. You know, and that's where the cool kids go. That's where you can probably like pick up some marijuana, things like that, you know. And a huge amount of a young man's life is just spent on pursuing absolute nonsense, you know. It's all a lot of fun, you know, and to an
You
extent,
mean pussy? You mean
not
pussy,
just
mate.
pussy, but like, I mean, the thing is, hey Duke, you'll be disgusted at this, you know. I mean, my old
No,
man
I
lined
won't.
me up with a
No,
sort of, well, I'm disgusted. Everybody should be, you know. But I was lined up for like this apprenticeship at quite this sort of like prestigious boatside. They make super yachts, you know.
Cool.
Well, yeah, it was cool, but then all of a sudden it wasn't, you know. Anyway, I got kicked off in my second year. It was a 4-year thing, you know. Got kicked off in my second year, and they did say, by the way,
That's
that
Sunseeker.
hey, say again.
That's Sunseeker by any chance?
What's Sunseeker?
Oh, they build
Is that a
yachts.
boatyard? No,
Yeah,
I mean,
boatyard.
if you must know, Pendennis Shipyard down in Falmouth, Cornwall. They make.
That'd be
Oh,
cool,
right,
man.
okay.
No,
Yeah.
that would be a good job. Good job.
Yeah, it would be a good job. But the point is, Duke, the thing is, if all you're interested in is fanny, drum and bass and jungle, and trying to get some ecstasy on the weekend, it's not going to go well, is it? It's not going to go well at all, like, you know. So, you know, sort of Monday to Friday, you're learning about boats that you just don't care about. All you want to be is a drum and bass DJ, you know. I mean, it's
What's wrong with
embarrassing.
wanting to be a drum and bass DJ? I mean, there's
Well,
nothing.
what's wrong with it is that you were on an apprenticeship for to make like prestigious super yachts. You said that's what's wrong with it. And I'm just saying with
I'm
young
not.
men,
I don't know.
it's,
I'm actually not sure that I agree with that. Maybe that's just.
I'm not even
my-
sure what I said. What do you disagree with, Sojo?
Well, because it seems to be the implication that, you know, sort of chasing your dream to be an artist or a drum and bass DJ is less valuable than being a worker on a super yacht. I think
No.
I don't agree with that. If that's what you're saying.
The point is one, i.e. the super yacht, that is likely. The path is laid out. It's an established business. It's like, this is the apprenticeship scheme. You will have a job. If you do these necessary discipline steps, you will have a job. Whereas basically going like, hey, I'm pretty good on the decks, let's score some fucking weed, like, is not, there is no clear, like, progression path through that. Do you see what I mean?
That's actually such a middle class take. And that must sound quite funny coming from me.
Well, I'm
but
upper working class, so yeah.
Upper working class, right? Right. No, but it's the safe option. And in many ways, I don't like the safe option. I think if you want to be anything in life, you have to take risks, and sometimes that means taking risks that seem absolutely absurd to most people. But
Sure.
You're never going to be anybody in this life if you just do what everybody else does.
But
You've got
wouldn't
to
you say
put-
so, Joe, that almost every teenager is sort of like, you know, pseudo taking those risks on a daily basis on like sort of TikTok or frivolities like, you know, sort of like DJing and things like that. Everybody's aiming for the top, but the reality is you don't get there. And the point is, it's a hedonistic lifestyle. It's completely void of any kind of like sort of like real meaning. You know, I mean, we were talking earlier about you should probably know all of your history to be a real Englishman type thing. There's none of that involved, I can promise you. Do you see what I mean? I'm just saying.
Yeah, but there's none of that in building boats either. So, you know, it's just swapping one.
Well, I think
thing
there's a closer connection. I mean, this is a difficult conversation. We're getting a little bit like back and forth, but it's, yeah, I think our ancestors built boats. They certainly didn't smoke dope in their bedrooms in their underpants, trying to make dubstep, did they? You know,
They did the equivalent when they were
did they? I'd love to hear it.
Look, mate, when I was in the SADF in Southwest Africa, like, occasionally I was very trad and I shot antelopes for my black African soldiers. Didn't like it much because I was never much into shooting antelopes, to be honest with you, because they don't shoot back. I did that, but we also used to swap rat packs for Zol, which is marijuana.
Nice. Yeah.
But that was the modern world, you know. That was where we were.
Yeah. I'm just reading.
He didn't really change anything.
Yeah.
We were still the good guys. We were still winning most of the time. You know, we were fighting SWAPO, who were fucking communists. And and we were still winning most of the time. And like a lot of my black African soldiers detested the communists because they'd killed their parents or their brothers or their sisters or their cousins, like in Angola or Mozambique. So like, I had a load of Shangans who are an offshoot of the Zulus. So yeah, you're not quite right, mate. There is, yes, of course, there's a change, but there's also there's a traditionalism there too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I was just reading the chat, and because I ramble, I do ramble. Yeah. No, the original point was just like some people, I think definitely myself, should have been pulled out of school at 16 at that normal age, rather than saying, right, go on son, go and do A levels, see if you're any good at maths. It's like, well, you've had nearly 12 years to prove you're good at maths. You're not. Your old man's a builder, he's pulling in quite a bit of money. Go and learn from him from an early age. Be forced to do it, like via the family, rather than. But like I say, every young man, who's not naturally kind of disadvantaged, the type who got bullied at school. If you were good at sports, if the girls liked you, if you could speak with confidence, then your future doesn't necessarily point towards education. I don't know about these days because I haven't been at school for 10 years. Do you see what I mean? But your future doesn't necessarily point towards education. It points towards, or let's put it this way: it doesn't point towards you sort of making that divide between working class and middle class type thing. It actually sends you from working class down to the lower end of that. And in my case, yeah, all you want to do is be the best speed carriage DJ in town. Not that anybody gives a shit. You know what I mean? And it's a terrible life choice. I'm actually very happy, but I'm just saying, it's like so many lads, I think they should have been taken out of this system, stop being taught all these weird ideas and history that they don't really need to know, or the geography of some South American shithole. Do you see what I mean? And like, right, lad, this is how you make money in this clown world, with your hands first and foremost, not like with Bitcoin or coding. I think that just needs to be the underlying principle of any given nation. Do you know what I mean? Your men need to be set up to be like just roughly in the ballpark of manliness. Would you agree? Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
Adam, what do you think of that, mate?
I have no idea. No idea at all.
Oh, come on, man.
I apologise.
Give us a break.
I kind of tuned out about halfway through. So
yeah, I was
listening.
I just said agree with that because I wanted to make Grief feel better.
Oh, well, sorry, lads. I thought I was on something there, but it's just.
No, I would agree. No, Grief. Honestly, I'm joking, mate. I do agree. When you're 16 years old or 17 or 18, you should have a trade or you should have a profession.
Yeah, trades are good. Trades are good,
and you should be educated. I mean, you got all those years of childhood. You should be taught how to do something useful, so they actually have a skill when you're an adult. I mean, it's absurd. But I've been in favour of dismantling the education system for a long time, as I keep repeatedly saying on this stream. I think the whole thing's a waste of time.
I just reckon if you get your kid into something good, if you get your teenager into something good at the right time, okay, like a real hobby, and he even manages, let's say, to make a YouTube channel out of it, like a bit of popularity, or like he gets really good at like electronics or woodwork or something like that, then he will probably avoid a lot of the like, holy shit, like I'm a horny teenage moron, what the hell am I going to do for the next 20 years, because he's already got something, Yeah.
I'll go a step further. I'll say what we need to do is completely dismantle the education system, because education is not a natural monopoly, and therefore it doesn't need to be run and controlled by the government. We also need to get rid of child labour laws. And every child should work for his father, where it's possible. But I mean, in an ideal world, most men would have their own businesses or they'd work for themselves anyway, and they wouldn't work for corporations. So where possible, every child should work for his father, or every boy should work for his father. and learn the trade from his father. And in that way, not only would the boy learn to not only would the boy be qualified at a young age, but also the father-son bond would be strengthened. Because nowadays, a lot of dads are just like, they're trying to be their kid's best mate or something. It's a very kind of facile, kind of stupid relationship. Whereas I think men are quite functional, and it's like, if the kid is useful, then there's going to be more of a relation there, more of a connection. So, I mean, that's how I feel.
Well, we talked about trades a few streams ago, I think, but and another thing that I thought of since then is that even from a political stance, like pursuing trades is better because it's very decentralized compared to other forms of education.
Yeah.
So I say better, I mean better for us.
I think, just to keep pushing my point, if you did do what I just said people should do, you'd end up with a kind of class system, if not caste system, in which you have, some men are bakers, and they're bakers because their father was a baker, and their grandfather and their great-grandfather beyond that, and so on and so forth. And you'd have basically large networks of extended families that specialize in various different trades, which I think is how things worked in feudalistic times. And that seems to me to be very, very trad.
But we're not in feudalistic times. We're never going to be there again. And so we have to look at the kind of systems that might work, which to me, like my perfect Britain is like somewhere around 1904, 1905, to be honest. Except for the fact the Liberals won the next election.
Well, yeah, Edwardian period. Yeah, I'd say I'll go for that. I'm just saying, wouldn't it be nice to be born into I mean, the Jews, ironically, are quite good at this. I mean, they have various different families that kind of monopolize different industries, don't they? So you get born into like a Jewish goldsmith family, or a Jewish accounting family, or a Jewish, and they're in the industry. And you've got, all your cousins and your uncles and aunts. And
hang on, Bruce. But also, you could be born into a British shipbuilding family, a British steel family, a British coal mining family, a British military family, a British naval
note
family.
the difference, though.
Yeah, note the difference.
Difference. These are state industries, or they're corporations that this family doesn't have any stake in.
Excuse me. I'm not saying that at all. I'm talking about when they were actually real independent companies.
Well, yeah, still, it's like you're working for a company instead of having your own cottage industry, isn't it?
No. But listen, my family were all army guys, all right? So I followed my dad into the British Army, yeah? Like he followed his dad and he followed his dad, yeah?
That's not a business.
No, of course it's not. That's defending your nation.
Sorry, I thought there was a connection with the Jews here, because I thought what Bruce said about the Jews was...
No, I don't think...
Okay, fair enough. I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think there is much of a connection with that. One of the things I disagree with Bruce on is that I don't believe in super Jews.
I'm not talking about super Jews here. I'm just saying that it's a certain... Wouldn't it be nice, for example, to be born into, I don't know, a family of accountants, right? So your dad's an accountant. I'm just throwing that out there as a... All right, it's boring as fuck. Oh, Jesus Christ, Duke. I'm trying to make a point here. Like, you're born into a family of accountants, yeah? Your dad's an accountant. Your uncle's an accountant. You've got an entire extended network of accountants in your family, and they run various different businesses around the country, and so on and so forth. And when you grow up, you learn how to do accounting, and you've got a job, and everything's just set up for you, right? Because it's a kind of family-run, your extended family is just in that business. I mean, that sounds good to me, right?
It sounds like deathly boring to me, but I mean, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, that's
I actually come from a family like that. From my father, his grandfather came out of the same line of work, and both myself and my brother rebelled against that.
oh
So no, it's really weird actually, because in many ways I don't know why I did that, or I don't know why he did that. I think in many ways we just thought that we could do something else, or
yeah.
we had the freedom to do something else. We didn't have that social pressure, and in many ways, my dad and my grandfather weren't that particularly fussed about it anyway. So there is, in order to do that, you have to have. I think you have to have very strong sort of social ties, not necessarily family, but sort of cultural. That would be frowned upon. That my brother and myself would exit the family business like that. That it would be frowned upon. Whereas that I don't think that would be frowned. That's not frowned upon today.
I think
I mean,
this
you
is probably
see it
one of
in.
the.
Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, I think this is probably one of the bits where you get into a bit of a tough quandary though, because like, I mean, that's worked out all right for you, hasn't it? Like, breaking from family tradition. But there
Yeah, I
are a
mean, I've been
lot
able
of
to.
people who it hasn't worked out for, and it's kind of the norm nowadays.
Yeah, and I mean, I also don't see it change. I don't see it changing. I actually see the opportunity for small self-employment to actually decrease, because as technology gets more advanced and the cost to enter into industries increases because of the capital requirements, everything becomes more complex. That everything is eventually going to be dominated by large corporations, not by small independents. That's one of my great fears, that this freedom that we once had, or that we have at the moment, which still exists in the trades, I fear that that's all going to disappear, and all of us will be basically just employed by corporations.
Well,
Well, AI is coming in as well.
So,
AI, yeah.
yeah. Leave aside the AI and the automation, which is another issue. But looking at Sojo's point there, small business and medium-sized business is being destroyed by these forced lockdowns. It's being totally destroyed by it, and that means not only the owners and the people who make profits from these small businesses and medium-sized businesses, but it also all the people who work for them. And like, that's being destroyed, and it is, and it's being done deliberately. And if you tell me it's not being done deliberately, I'll call you a fucking liar.
Yeah. Did I mute myself? No, I didn't. Yeah, no. Yeah. I think AI is going to come in as well and steal a lot of jobs. I mean, this is what
but a
lot of middle class jobs.
Yeah, and Brutus, the point I'm trying to make to you is that AI and automation is going to destroy more middle class jobs. Of course it is. But what's happening with these forced lockdowns for the China virus that kills all these desperately young people of 85 plus is destroying small and medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
And almost the only thing like a working class guy can do to fight against that is to get a trade, because plumbers and bricklayers.
Not really.
No, hang on. Plumbers and bricklayers and carpenters and all those sorts of guys really can't be easily replaced by AI.
Yeah, I think
multinationals.
I think there's a lot of truth in the argument that it's going to be very hard to replace them with AI and robotics, because what they do is so the dexterity required to plaster a wall or to do whatever it is on a building site, the robotics isn't there yet.
Well, it's a class thing, isn't it? It's a class thing. It shouldn't be on which robots can replace which sentient being. It should be on okay. I mean, almost going back to Darren, we were speaking about earlier, or myself. It's like, look, this lad ain't going to be a mathematician. Set him to work, you know. By the time he's 30, he'll be earning a very good living and have a working class missus called Sharon. Chances are he'll have 3 kids, you know what I mean? But the nerdy chap or the shy fella, or I'm sorry for being like stereotypical, you know, all of those people, they're the ones who go on to earn 100 grand a year for some like company, or they've come up with some incredible idea. So it's rather than like, don't have a system within society to sort of fast track or identify these kids. Literally look at the kid. Okay, it's very obvious from day one. If he's doing maths, if he's doing smart things on Minecraft, you know, late in the evening, and if he's getting maybe bullied at school, yeah, you've got a genius on your hands. If he's playing football, if he's getting on well with the girls and is shit at maths, you've got a bricklayer on your hands. Like, it's up to the parents to sort of like really understand the culture of what's possible for one's
That's what I'm saying.
you know?
That's what I'm saying. It's easier if the kid follows the father, because the
Oh, I agree, Brutus. Yeah,
tree, isn't it? I mean, if
I
your
was
dad
agreeing with you. Yeah.
if your dad's a mathematician, then the kid's probably going to be a mathematician. You know.
Yeah, but you were talking about it in a sense that the state would kind of be the arbiter of this, you know. Which
No,
but if you were talking about it in the sense that the rule, you know, the essence of this rule is that the kid should follow the father. You know, a father may have 4 kids. You know, lots of families, they have a kid that's just like the dad, 2 that ain't, and then they have a daughter. You know, they're all going to follow different paths. It's about identifying what the kid is like, because everybody is like something from day dot, aren't they? Every baby's different, you know.
Hang on, Grief. You're not totally right about that. You're not. I mean, like, I followed my old man into the army, and my younger brother, who was always my father's favourite son, did fuck all apart from fuck around playing football.
Well, that proves the point, doesn't it? That is.
No, it doesn't. You know? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Like, honestly, he fucked around playing football and got really upset when his nurse girlfriend left him.
Yeah, well, fuck him, but it proves the point. Yeah.
But my dad used to moan at me about that shit. I mean,
yeah.
And I used to
what a knobhead. What a dickhead. Yeah.
No, he was
I'm sorry.
Brother. No, he was my brother. He's a good bloke. But don't talk
I'm just
shit.
following you. I'm just following the cues, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
No, he sounds like a stand-up fella. You know?
You still do a lot of humble bragging, mate. But yeah, whatever.
No, yes. Well, so what is humble bragging? I'm not sure what that is. Is that where
it's mostly what you do.
But what is it? It's when you down.
You're saying what a good working class guy you are, who never reads a book, who obviously has read quite a few books. But
he
anyway,
hasn't. He really hasn't, actually.
I haven't read any books, but
having said that, I need to go and have a slash. So you guys keep.
Hang on, wait. Before you go,
Charming.
can you please get rid of the comment, please, please, or just do it for me, Duke. Please, go on. He's fucking gone, isn't he?
Right. So we were saying about AI, right, and technology, and Sojo, you were saying about your fear of it wiping out sort of the freedom of the sort of everyday person to engage in small business. I suppose I think that's what you were saying, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's correct.
So how can we fix that? I mean, do we just go like full Tiberius and just like kill the guy that invents all the cool stuff, or what's an actual practical solution for that as a society?
Open source AI, first of all.
Yeah, but the thing is that you're right, because it's like, is there any way to stop this? And it's kind of, I look at the situation and think to myself, well, this is technologically driven primarily, so I don't. And also, in many ways, I like the progress of technology. I'm not in that kind of Volian mold that thinks that sort of technical progress is bad. I like having sort of modern mod cons. I just, I do. But the question is, like Brutus, you say, if you open source AI, will that stop the centralization of these technologies? I would say that the evidence that we have so far is no, it doesn't.
No,
Linux
I don't think it would. But I mean, at least it's a certain assurance. I mean, in that it could be shared more easily, so more people have access to the AI. And also, so you know what algorithms it's running on, so it can't screw you over as much.
Yeah, but I think that the only problem is that corporations can take that open source information and then do what's called a fork, which is they make their own copy of the open source software, and then that could be black boxed, so you wouldn't know what was in there. Yeah, you know what a fork is. Okay, but the audience may not know what a fork is. So it's tough. I look at this. I look at the problem and think this is a very hard problem to solve, and I don't. The funny thing about the internet and technology is that I think we all dreamed and thought that this would be this great decentralizing technology, but here we are in 2021, and actually it's done the opposite. It's centralized everything. It's made the internet more centralized.
Yeah.
There's 2 cloud providers that effectively run the entire internet now: Amazon, Azure, and Google Cloud. They are the internet now, basically, and Facebook. So I would say that based on all trends that we've seen so far, it will become more centralized. It will just continue on this arc of progress that it's on.
Yeah, I think technology does have a centralizing effect because of standardization. Because you want, I mean, every screw. I mean, if you want your screw to fit into the hole the right way, right? So there's going to be a certain standardization there, and somebody's going to have to set the standard. And so in that way, there's always kind of a central authority always develops for technology.
Guys, 1 second. I want to play us a really good video about a really great British hero, and none of his crew, who are British, and also there were some Australians, etc. in his crew. And I want to play us this video.
Who is it? Paul? Is it Paul Gascoigne? Who is it?
If you take the piss much more like that, mate, I will actually kick you, even though I like it. All right? But I'm going to play this video so you guys can shut up.
Ole, 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 ole.
Oh, shut up, Brutus.
Where's the video?
Well, it's coming.
Movement of the ice was increasing. Frost, smoke from opening cracks in all directions. It had the appearance of a great prairie fire, rising higher as it drifted off before the wind in heavy, dark, rolling.
Can you put it full screen, please?
At another point, there was the appearance of a train running before the wind, smoke rising from the locomotive straight upwards, and the smoke columns elsewhere gave the effect of warships steaming in line ahead. We were helpless intruders in a strange world. Our lives depended upon the play of grim elementary forces that made a mock of our puny efforts. The roar of pressure could be heard all around us. Listening below, I could hear the cracking and groaning of her timbers, the pistol-like cracks and indefinable whispers of our ship's distress. Overhead, the sun shone serenely, and the light glinted and sparkled on the million facets of the new pressure ridges. The wind howled in the rigging, and I couldn't help thinking it was making just the sort of sound you would expect a human being to utter if they were in fear of being murdered. "Hurry," I shouted. "What the ice gets, the ice keeps."
They take to the boats, and in a roaring sea begin a dash for Elephant Island.
See, there's my idea of real British men. Sheriff, absolute hero, and none of his crew ever lay him down. And as Top Cat actually turned around and told Colin, and I quite like Top Cat, and get fucked if you don't, because his crew knew he would never ask anyone to do anything he didn't do himself. That is real British history and real British great heroes and men.
Wow. Yeah, it's a good video. It's a good video.
Look cold down there.
Yeah, fucking freezing. I would have detested it. But such good guys, man. Such good guys.
What about the Erebus? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Erebus and Terror, the two ships that went up to the Northwest Passage in the 1830s. Yeah, absolutely.
What was the big issue of them? Was it that they gave them they took regular boats and they put a metal hull over the top?
No, it wasn't actually, Adam. And what it was they had lead poisoning from some of their food in the tinned food that they had, because they didn't realize that you get lead poisoning from sealing up the tins with lead.
Yeah, and they got that condition, didn't they? What's that called?
Where you get lead poisoning, yeah. Yeah, what sort of tools do you lot own? Like, what sort of tools have you got as men? Like, have you got any tools? Circular saw, maybe a drill?
I've got a screwdriver.
No, not like a nice set of hand tools is important, but like Duke, Ataman, Sojo, what do you own? A computer is a tool, by the way.
I got a Swiss Army knife.
Oh, all right, okay. You got a bit going on there. Anything substantial or just?
I've got some woodworking tools like a router and stuff.
Nice. Router is very dangerous but useful. Yeah.
I used to have some guns when I lived in South Africa. And they were quite useful tools.
Nice.
Not in Australia. I don't need them in Australia.
Yeah, I've never shot a gun. I've shot an air rifle a couple of times. I shot a rat square in the face once, but he didn't die for quite some time. It was fascinating. I think what the bullet did, it went into it. Well, on later inspection, we worked out that the bullet, the little 22 lead pellet, went halfway through his skull, and it was just putting a neat amount of pressure on the poor chap's brain, all right, which set his sort of like balance center off, like just completely off, you know. So he knew he had a hole in his head, so it was time to panic, but he could only travel right. He could only travel right in all dimensions, like in 4 dimensions. So he was like doing this kind of like roly-poly thing around this barn for about 20 minutes before he settled down. And then the real story starts when my mate Henry, he's a bit of a softy, he went up, he was like, "Oh mate, like, got to put him down, just put him down, this is horrible, put him down." All right, he votes Labour, by the way, this guy. He was like, "Yeah, put him down," like that. And I was like, "Well, you put him down then, you put him down," like, you know. So anyway, he put the air rifle, we loaded it again, he put the 22 like up to the rat's head. Yeah, and the rat was kind of, he was chilling at this point, everything was skewed with, but he definitely wasn't dead. And put the air rifle up to his head. But Henry, being an idiot, he put the sights up to the rat's head. So when he popped the trigger, it actually just put one square in his shoulder. You know what I mean? Because they're a good inch apart, aren't they? The sights like that. Which set him off again. He was off and gone like that. He was bouncing around, knocking over paint tins. He was like, yeah, he was like a man possessed. Well, a rat possessed. He was bouncing off everything. And anyway, we just went home. We were just like, right, fuck this. He'll be all right. So we just went home. So we'll never know what happened to him. He's probably fine, but yeah. So,
poor rat.
Just a little story, yeah. And that was, which ties back into our previous conversation. I should have actually been a boat builder. But instead I was smoking dope, shooting rats in the shoulder with my mate Henry. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So, it's just a segue, yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Well, I shot a couple of people in the head with 7.62. But they didn't move around after I did that.
I was going to ask, actually, I don't know whether it's a sensitive question, which is why I didn't ask it, but have you killed, like, a couple of people, like, a few people at Duke? Legally, I mean.
Yeah, a few, but the only one I cared about was the 13-year-old kid. 14-year-old kid.
What?
No. Like we were overrunning this Swappo camp, and this silly little cunt was running away with an AK in his hand, and like he was about 300 or 400 meters away, and I put about 6 rounds in him.
Well, how do you mean, silly little 13-year-old?
What, six?
He was
rounds?
a kid. He was a bloke in a Swapo combat uniform with an AK.
Swapo?
Swapo, Southwest African People's something, communist basically, supported by Cuba and the Russians. And he was running away, and he had an AK-47 rifle in his hand, which he hadn't dropped. And like, I just stuck about 4 or 5 rounds in his back. And later on, I walked up to him and looked at him, and he was like maybe 13 or 14, which I wasn't very happy about. And I may or may not have had, may not have had some nightmares about that shit, but
I was going to ask, yeah,
but I didn't know how old he was. He was just a bloke in a Swapo uniform running with a rifle in his hand, and like, if you had a rifle in your hand, I was gonna fucking kill you, because that meant you couldn't kill me or my bloke.
Well, that's the mentality of the army. It wouldn't work without it, would it? I guess.
No, it would not.
Yeah,
but
it's harrowing, isn't it?
Catamount, no, they won't, because it was a fucking war.
Well, you did the right thing, Duke. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if I did, actually, but...
No, of course you do. Shoot as many of the enemy as you can. No
yeah,
problem.
yeah, right. But no, don't really think you should kill kids, you know?
What's
13, how are you to know?
Yeah, he could kill you.
Yeah, that's what my psychologist in Australia tried to tell me.
It's Millwall, isn't it? It's Millwall.
No, it ain't fucking Millwall, mate, because Millwall is bollocks compared to that. But yeah, all right.
Yeah, how are you meant to know that it was a minor?
Well, yeah, that's not like I started off as a British soldier. British soldiers don't kill kids, all right?
Well, he would have killed you if you had the chance.
Yeah, he probably would have done, but British soldiers still don't kill kids.
What do you think of that?
But you're also holding yourself to a standard that they don't follow. It's like the British Army wouldn't put kids into the army either.
No, they wouldn't.
So why would these Bush Rangers do it?
But I am British, and we have the highest standards of everybody,
and
we are the best of everybody, and this is what you guys don't always get.
But this is what we were talking about earlier, Duke, and this isn't a levelled accusation at you or the army or the military or anything.
No,
it's just an interesting thing to think about, and that's just that, you know, this idea that you know, the army is a kind of thing, and people back that sort of ideology of like, you know, nationalism. There's a progressive effort to just dissolve it all across the planet type thing, you know?
Yeah, there is.
We're at the stage where, like, you know, the army, it doesn't really work in that way anymore. I don't think you'd ever get a sort of cohesive... the point is, and ultimately, you wouldn't get like quote unquote red-pilled gentlemen really going for that kind of national let's join the army narrative unless there was a direct threat, because all of those gentlemen are involved with questioning what's behind it, how does it work, what's this in the name of, who's funding it, for example. There isn't that kind of lack of internet 1933 mentality anymore, where everybody looks the same, everybody knows they're British because nobody in the media is questioning it. I'm just saying there's so much doubt been sown into kind of our future, and younger generations will be none the wiser to most of this stuff.
That's not true, because we're going to teach them different. We're going to teach them different.
Oh, I agree with that. No, I agree with that positive message. Yeah, I mean, listen, like the kind of the Holocaust narrative, to pick an example, that gets regular funding, you know, and that there's often headlines that they're horrified that the younger generations just don't seem interested. Shock horror. They just don't seem to care about this thing that happened 80 years ago, you know. So do you see what I mean? But the point is, there's not the same infrastructure. In fact, there's the opposite infrastructure in terms of like British war heroes, the empire being a force for good. It's the media, the narrative, the academia, the intelligentsia, the flipping education system from top to bottom is undoing all of that. So I just think it's better to focus everything you're saying, kind of pinpoint it to people who are receptive to it, you know, rather than try and sort of allocate it to the country, to the general sort of status quo, because I think it will go on deaf ears, because a lot of people are already deaf to all of this good stuff. You have to coax them back into it somehow with something else, and I do believe that something else is just saying, here, Darren, you're being fucked over in a multiple of ways, and I can explain how.
No. British guys were honourable, mostly. Extremely brave, mostly.
Yeah, sure. I didn't deny that. Yeah.
No, I just don't think you're right, mate.
Oh, fair play.
I've got some news that we can maybe shift the topic with. It's COVID related, but apparently Peter Hitchens has had the jab. So what do you all make of that?
Oh,
I think that's shocking hypocrisy from him.
Fuck Pete Hitchens.
Fuck off, Hitchens. Jesus.
Fuck Pete Hitchens.
Dellenpole will be last man standing.
Dellenpole.
Hey, Brutus. Brutus, I've got to ask you this.
Yes, mate.
I am not trying to make an uncomfortable stream for you, but I must ask you this.
Okay.
What the fucking hell is going on with Dellenpole having that completely glowing in the dark arsehole Indian Ralph on his show?
He just doesn't know, does it? I mean, he's having a little dig around, and he doesn't know the dissident right. He doesn't know who these characters are. There's nothing malicious going on there. He doesn't know who he's talking to. I mean, I think he's quite straightforward and quite honest. I mean, when he was doing the stream and Ralph was talking about PA, and he said, PA, what's that? I think I've kind of heard of it. You know, so he's just, I don't know how he got the introduction to Ralph. I really don't. But he obviously doesn't know who he is and what his history is. So
to me, Ralph is like, if Ralph is not Special Branch or MI5, I would be absolutely amazed, frankly.
Yeah, I think he is too. I think he's just an agent of chaos. I really cannot understand how anybody can listen to him, because his voice is just utterly condescending and obnoxious and disgusing. I mean,
if we look at the data,
talking down and
minus groypers. Let's look at the data. Yeah, it's very strange.
Do that again, Grief. That's good.
Leaving aside all the absolutely pervy stuff he did about Brutus's mother, which, like, to me is just beyond the pale. Like, you leave mothers, sisters, and everyone like that is nothing to do with political conversation. But leaving aside that shit, if that guy is not some sort of British special branch or MI5 asset, I would be amazed. Absolutely amazed.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's always hard to tell, but I mean, he's definitely an agent of chaos. Definitely a bad guy.
You don't think that there was no aspect to his analysis that you found insightful? Because I thought at the start
nothing at all.
Oh, really?
Nothing.
I thought a lot of the slides he put together were actually quite accurate
Yeah,
in
well, it
his
was stuff that
diagnosis
it was
of
definitely
the
stuff that had been done
situation.
before, and it
I'm
was
sorry.
interesting stuff, you know. And there was there was a little bit of community around Creepy Ralph, you know. Before I was part of it, you know. I thought actually no, he pulled quite good numbers. It was round about the same time that Unwashed started his sort of journey channel. Do you know what I mean? There was a bit going on, the Speaker's Corner thing, just before COVID and just before the 37 words thing. That's where it sort of all came into a bit of conflict, wasn't it? But no, Ralph was good at the beginning, and should have paid more attention to Brutus, who's usually on the ball. And I think Ralph is a bit creepy, but I agree with Sojo that a lot of the like you say, the slides he was producing, just letting people know elements of Edward Dutton's work, elements of a few other people's work, just saying, look, actually, this is how this works and that works. But then doing all the German stuff, like you say, Brutus, it was a bit weird. And actually, the grouping was cool to start with. It lasted a couple of weeks, but like you say, you can't really get 300 plus 500 people to do something coherent. It actually just, like, after a while, getting like 14s in the chat actually does you no favors. It does the opposite.
14s in the chat. 14s in the chat is getting a chat for a white nationalist, semi.
Listen,
Nazi.
never mind the number, dude. But the point is, listen.
Shut up. No.
Okay.
Shut up. Getting 14s in the chat.
What is that? Sorry, mate. Sorry. I'll shut up. I'm muting.
I sometimes wonder why I even bother defending the account, but anyway. Getting 14s in the chat is about a white nationalist neo-Nazi who was a convicted criminal. Fuck that shit. And Sojo, do you know what? I like you, mate. You come up with some good stuff. But Ralph, if he is not an MI5 or bloody special branch operative, I'll be amazed. And you guys with your rappers, go and eat your bloody biscuits.
Well, I don't understand. I mean, obviously, a lot of things get thrown around about people being agents and all this stuff. I mean, who knows? But I mean, I'll say one thing about him doing the 14s in the chat and everything. I actually tweeted at him before he blocked me. This was before the whole Simon Harris incident as well. And I said to him, I don't understand why you're pushing the 14 words thing. It's like an optics disaster. And it's just, whatever. We've been over this conversation before. But I mean, the interesting thing is that eventually he actually came around to the conclusion in his analysis that wasn't going to fly. So it's kind of making amends, but I think the damage has already really been done to his image. I mean, there's going to be video of him around, doing the salute and the 14 in the chat and everything. I don't think you can really come back from that, really.
The guy's a liar. He joined the Patriotic Alternative saying that he was into ethno-nationalism, and then he left again and said, oh, whoops, actually I wasn't. Oh, and by the way, I've got 8,000 names. 8,000 names.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't understand why nobody's talking about this.
But what, 8,000 names of what?
Well, he said he was in the PA and now he's got 8,000 names. So I don't know. You can write to Ralph and you can ask him what it means.
Well, no.
I mean, was Mark Collett? The question is, was Mark Collett stupid enough to put this guy in charge of the information, to make Ralph his IT guy? Yeah, was Mark Collett stupid enough to do that? I don't know. But if he did, then it's quite possible that Ralph's got the name of everybody in PA.
We have to remember, because we actually, like me, you, well, not me really, but like you and Hemi, and when everything was kicking off, we were putting these questions to Towler and Colette. Is Ralph part of PA? And they finally eventually made a statement on it in Telegram, and they said that he wasn't connected. So based on that information, which is really all we've got, he wasn't technically a part of PA. So I think to myself, well, if that's true and he wasn't part of PA, what information does he have? What do these 8,000 names relate to? And I think they relate to him scraping data from Telegram, which he's mentioned on his streams a number of times.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, who knows?
Oh, I can't wait to run you through my algorithm.
Who knows? Who flipping knows? I mean, the point is he's openly talking about taking names and collecting data.
Wasn't he making an app for PA?
Yeah, that's what I heard as well, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't all of this an argument for nationalism in the future? Like nationalism of the future, should we say? Sort of like trying to sort of get away from this sort of centralized thing that we call the internet, you know, because isn't this just doomed to continue, like all of this on a sort of perpetual, constant, relentless basis? You know, there's just going to be gay thing after gay thing, you know, and you know, and then the good lads will just sort of critique it and learn from it, and then do like a new internet strategy. But meanwhile, everyone's like alienated. Society is progressing all around us, you know, for better, for worse, usually for worse, and it's sort of like I just feel maybe there's a way, and I'm not talking IRL meetups, that's a thing of the past, none of that turned out well, did it, you know? I'm sort of like maybe there's a way to sort of like make this thing outside somewhat of the internet, and I don't know how to do it, but I do know that if we stay here, we're all going to suffer, you know? I'm sure.
Can I interject and just read this? Do you mind?
No, I don't mind at all, good sir.
Going into, because I don't want to talk about Ralph.
Go for it, Bruce. Go for it.
Right, I'm going to read this to you because this is fucking driving me nuts. So sorry, Your Majesty, but I have had my first COVID vaccination for wholly selfish reasons. I did not do it for the good of others, but for my own convenience. And I will have my second for the same purpose. A very important part of my family now lives abroad, and I am deeply tired of not being able to see them. I get the strong sense that any sort of travel and plenty of other things will be impossible if I don't have the necessary vaccine certificate. I hope it becomes known as the Blair Passport, as it is largely the warmongering creature's idea.
Blair Passport!
And people will come to hate it as they have come to hate so many of his actions. So I have been more or less forced to have an immunization I would not normally have bothered with. Don't, if you are wise, dare call me an anti-vaxxer. I have in a long time been injected against tetanus, smallpox, TB, polio, blah, blah, blah. I'm a fiend for preventative medicine and the precautions I take when I'm in malarial areas, and so elaborate my companions laugh at them. From swallowing horrible protective medicines to blasting my hotel room with ultra-strength death rays to exterminate any possible mosquitoes. These are all terrible diseases, and I think it's wise to do this. And if you think COVID is as dangerous as them, I certainly don't want to put you off the jab. Indeed, I don't want to put you off in any way. It's your business, not mine, and not even the Queen's. I dislike her growing habit of getting involved in politics, and I'd feel the same if she supported any cause I liked. Of course, my self-injection didn't hurt. I'm a blood donor, used to far bigger needles in my arm for a lot longer, but I did feel a pang of regret and loss. For me, the vaccination was a gloomy submission to a new world of excessive safety and regulation. I tried to fight against it, but I lost. Fuck you, Hitchens. The new Jerusalem, in which we allow the state to boss us around even more in the name of our own good, is now coming into being. And so we are just going to be under surveillance a lot more, recorded a lot more, and bossed around a lot more. I'm reminded of the great Edwardian satirist Saki's bitter 1913 novel, when William came about an imaginary German invasion of Britain. Its hero returns to transformed homeland from a long expedition to Tsarist Siberia. When he finally reaches his London home, his wife apologizes that she has to fill in a long police form to report his presence, explaining that it is a stupid form to be filled up when anyone arrives to say where they come from and their business and nationality and religion and all that sort of thing. We're rather more bureaucratic than we used to be, you know. Well, and so are we, and it will now get worse because we have been through a revolution in which we gave up freedom for the illusion of safety. For me, almost all I need to know about it is that Mr. Blair likes it very much. Yeah, but you still took the fucking vaccine, didn't you, you prick? Like, what a phony. What a phony. No, I got it. No, I got it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I bored you by reading that out, but I want to point out, I got involved in this thing. Peter Hitchens was one of the first men to give me the red pill, actually, way back in 2015. Way fucking back in 2015. I remember specifically because I had a Russian girlfriend. I was confused about the Russian issue. I went on YouTube and I saw Hitchens doing a speech on it, and I got drawn in. I watched all of his videos. I bought his books, and he blew my mind. And now 5 years later, look at him. Look at this. He just took the vaccine.
Yeah, but to be fair, Brutus, if you are not having a relationship with an absolutely totally British girl.
Oh, Jesus fucking.
No.
That's the point, isn't it?
Finish. No, let me finish. If you are not having a relationship with a totally British girl, you are obviously you are obviously full of hatred towards everyone in Britain.
Okay, Duke, I think you're kind of missing the point. I'm talking about Hitchens.
No, I'm taking a piss, you cunt. I'm taking a piss.
Right.
I think it's ridiculous that people say that.
Oh, jeez.
I think it's ridiculous that people say that. Yes, there are loads of great British girls. There are loads of great European girls.
What's this got to do with COVID?
Oh, God.
No, okay.
Dude, can you try and focus on the Peter Hitchens has just taken the vaccine. Okay.
Right.
He's taken the vaccine.
Bad. I said that was bad. Is there anything else to say about
that? Yeah, maybe some of us might like to say a few things on it, maybe.
Okay, go on, guys. You say how bad Peter Hitchens taking the vaccine is, and I'll just I'll listen to you. Go on.
It's only bad if you're invested in such clowns as Peter Hitchens. For me, it's nothing. You know, go on, Peter, have a couple. You know, you knob.
Well,
simple.
I was going to say
Peter Hitchens has said for years that Britain is finished. Is that not true?
Yeah,
I think he said that. Yeah.
Thank you.
He's probably on the money, but not. But the way he portrays it and the pseudo effort that he has against it, that he gets paid well for, is despicable. Nobody should be invested in anyone like Delingpole, Hitchens, anybody who's been on talk radio. No, he's on talk radio just going, oh, it's woke. Everything's woke. It's so woke. Oh, God, isn't it woke
sincere.
Like that?
Yeah, but he's sincere, and he's sincere in his learning.
You've got... Okay, maybe... listen, I don't tune in. Dino gave me some pro tips on Delingpole. He said, no, he's one to watch. I do... Yeah. I think Dino said he thinks he's sincere as well.
Well, he's having Laura Towler on this week.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, all right. Well, let's see if he does a number on her or if he's receptive. That would be the litmus test, wouldn't it?
He also had Richard the Lionheart on.
I don't know.
But anyway, it's past the 2-hour mark. Duke, I'm going to bed. Good night.
Yeah. Brutus, before you go, are you there?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. Thomas Baden Rice had Ivan the...
Crackling up. You're crackling.
Sorry, Ivan the Heathen. Is that better? Ivan the Heathen?
No, it isn't.
You're crackling like fuck, mate.
Yeah, what's happened to your mic?
I've no idea, mate. No idea. Is that better?
No.
Okay, well...
Send me an email.
Alright, never mind. So if it's crackling, I'll mute, yeah. And go to bed myself, probably.
Yeah, okay, then.
Right, good night, everyone, and good night.
Well, that was good. I'm not quite sure why half the people who streaming me fucked off. But I don't really care. I do what I do. You know what? If Peter Hitchens took the vaccine, that's really bad. But Peter Hitchens' constant advice British people, young British people, is to leave. Well, okay, I mean, that might be true. To some degree, it was true in the 19th century, when British people left and went to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, etc. So there's a certain amount of legitimacy to that, I suppose. But like, he's too black pill for me, because Hitchens, Peter Hitchens, who started off as a Trotskyist, now tells us that Britain's fucked and you just got to leave. I was never a Trotskyist, so maybe I don't believe in that. I thought it was interesting that, like, as we were doing this stream, 2 of the 5 people I was streaming with left at the same time for whatever reason. One of whom, Adam, who I actually like. I like Sojo, but like Sojo's doing whatever Sojo is doing. But that was quite funny. So I guess I should finish now, and you guys can always do what you want to do. I don't know, guys. One day I'll get to do an okay stream that I like. Anyway, I'm going to do this to play us out, and you can all get fucked if you're not very nice. That's true.
Ladies of Spain, for we've received orders to sail for old England. We hope in a short time to see us again. We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike soundings in the channel of old England. From Ushant to Scilly 'tis 35 leagues. We hove our ship to with a wind from southwest, boys. We hove our ship to for to strike soundings clear. It's 45 fathoms with a white sandy bottom. We squared our main yard and up channel did steer. We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike soundings in the channel of old England. From Ushant to Scilly 'tis 35 leagues. Now the first land we sighted, it is called the Dudman. Next Ramshead off Plymouth, start Portland and White. We sailed on by Beachy, by Fairley and Dungeness, and we hove our ship to off the South Foreland Light. We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike soundings in the channel of old England. From Ushant to Scilly 'tis 35 leagues. Then the signal was given for the Grand Fleet to anchor, and all in the Downs that night for to lie. Let go your shank painter, likewise your cat stopper. Haul up your clew garnets, let tacks and sheets fly. We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike soundings in the channel of old England. From Ushant to Scilly 'tis 35 leagues. Now let every man drink off his full bumper, and let every man toss off his full glass. We'll sing and be jolly and drown melancholy, and here's to the health of each true-hearted lass. We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll rant and we'll roar all on the salt seas until we strike soundings in the channel of old England. From Ushant to Scilly 'tis 35 leagues.
Oh, Billy Riley, Mr. Billy.
Okay, good night, chaps and ladies. And triple fire, get fucked and do it yourself. Good night.